to you today, asking for your guidance, wisdom, and support as we begin this meeting. Help us engage in a meaningful discussion, allow us to grow closer as a group and nurture the bonds of community.
Amen.
Jay, we listen to pledge allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. Councilman Licciardi,
Here.
Councilman Messier.
Here.
Councilman Bourget,
Here.
Council Vice President Williamson,
Here.
Council President Goslin.
Here.
Quorum is declared. Consent agenda.
May I make a motion that we move item K4 to the top of the list, please?
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. K4, sewer department update relative to odor complaints.
Right, so for the month of June, I can tell you the wastewater facility has 6 complaints. There was 5 on Water Street, there was 5 on Providence Street and 1 on Overhill Drive. Is there anything specific that the council is looking for as far as information?
Well, we went weeks, probably about 2 to 3 weeks of some very harsh odors coming through the Natick section.
Mhm.
I mean, there's been other areas. I know we went through it in the Crompton area. I know Pulaski Street's having some issues over in that vicinity. So we just started seeing an abundance of issues. I know the Crompton area seemed to be resolved. I don't know about the Pulaski Street, but I know the plant was having issues. And I know it's Councilman Williamson's ward, but I know I was getting calls and I think she was too. Or I was getting messages or whatever it was. I shared your email, what you had out there, what was going on, Josh's email, and so on and so forth. But I just want to give an update, a public update on what's been going on. And it seems like it subsided in the
Sure.
Natick area, but
So we believe that one of our pump stations was receiving excess hydrogen sulfide. So trying to put it in layman's terms as best as possible, it was coming into our pump station from what we believe. When it's in the water form, it's not a big deal, but when it gets through the sewer lines, it escapes, and then we get H2S readings, the rotten egg smell, that can be significantly higher. So we believe that that was happening through our neighboring community and then making its way through our system and ultimately to our facility. So the significant industrial user that we thought was the issue, we sat down, we talked with them, got an update as far as what they're doing for their chemical pretreatment before it gets into the sewer system. So that was mid to late June. And since then, it seems like odors have subsided as far as going through the collection system to the facility.
does anybody have any questions for Jeff on that?
We also, and I'm not sure, where do we stand on the report? And I know that you've worked with DEM, Jim.
I can speak to the report. We submitted the odor report to DEM in June of this year. And basically that was an inspection of the treatment plant. They asked to defer the sampling, the air sampling until mid-July. So in the next couple of weeks, we're going to be doing air sampling at the treatment plant and in the neighborhood. What is being proposed is, besides the hydrogen sulfide, the rotten egg smell, for a week, we're going to take samples. In the morning, we're going to take hydrogen sulfide readings, both at the plant and at 3 separate locations in the neighborhood. Then in the afternoon of that day, we're going to take what we call bag samples. Now, the bag sample is more than just a sniffer saying what the H2S level is. That will be then analyzed for the sulfide compounds that cause the odors. So we're trying to determine hydrogen sulfide is one noticeable odor, but as that gets diminished in the process, it then generates what we call mercaptans or other sulfides. So the bag test will tell us what else is present. So that's going to be done in the next 2 weeks. DM gave us that extension. Then we would submit the final report to DM in mid-August. So by mid-August, they will have the report. I believe the commission is, we've shared this with the commission, the report. If it hasn't been, we will send you the report that went to DEM. And basically their findings at the treatment plant was the operation was well, being well handled. However, they had some minor suggestions that if DEM approves them, then we could implement those. Those are minor expansions of, for example, the stacks, to extend it beyond the, a few feet off the building, or bring it up higher into the atmosphere to disperse it better. Things like that they are recommending in an event to disperse the odors. So that's where we are with the odor study. And to just reiterate what Jeff said, one of the industries did get a notice of violation because of the waste discharge. And I believe that is being corrected with the addition of chemicals before it enters our pump station back at near the center of New England.
How many complaints, Jeff, have we had in July?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely improved. There's no doubt about that. And I know we also had a situation where we had to have a truckload of waste at the facility for a weekend, which,
Postponed for the weekend.
yes.
Did it have anything to do with the issue in Coventry? I know there was the Amgen issue. Did any of that carry down to here?
That's the plus.
Okay.
That's what's resolved, what's being experienced at Pulaski.
And just understand, like, you get the complaints and you'll report it as we had 6 odor complaints. But that's the complaints that come to you. There are complaints that come, like, I can't speak for anybody else, but there are people that complain, because there was issues in the Crompton area, in the Pulaski Street area. They'll call me. And I was in touch with, Josh was in touch with me at some point, I would say 2 or 3 weeks ago. But those aren't on your list. I'll get like 4 or 5 complaints. I'm not gonna call every time. I'm just gonna let people know there's an issue, we're handling it, and it should be resolved. But I'm not gonna drop 4 complaints on you guys, because that number is really, I would say it's a false number sometimes. Because you most likely, you'll get the 6. I might get 4, you might get a couple that don't go to the sewer plant, because people have a habit sometimes of calling their council people rather than calling the source.
Well, the question would be,
So-
when we send you a complaint, is that counted as a complaint?
Yes.
I would say yes, it does.
It doesn't say, it wouldn't say Wakefield Street, because I live on Wakefield Street. It would say someone on Linden Drive is complaining. So I assume that gets logged as a complaint. Yes.
In the Crompton area where the
We don't
Pulaski,
give all what you're saying.
Well, I'm not gonna get, like,
Yeah.
if I call I had 4 complaints. I didn't tell you about any of them because Josh had called me at the same time. He said, we're looking for this issue. I think it's here. That's it. So you don't have those 4 complaints logged in.
Right.
So just so you understand, that number is usually bigger.
and one of the things that's important to identify where those odors are. I mean, obviously they're located at the treatment plant, but if it's in the collection system, that's important to know, because that is a result of a pump station.
Mhm.
Because a hydrogen sulfide and Pulaski Street, remember at the end of Pulaski Street is where Coventry ties in.
Yep.
Okay, so most of those odors came from the Amgen and the Coventry area. Remember pump stations, it's important to note where the odors come from, because these pump stations, we can do things at the pump station to mitigate that going further down the system. So as soon as you know that, Pulaski has been,
It was bad. Josh and I had talked. They did a good job. Good communication.
Any other questions?
I just have a comment for Jeff. Thank you for reaching out to the resident of Nottingham and doing that informational drop. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you for the update. and
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Hopefully it doesn't stink. All set, Sarah.
Consent agenda, approval of the minutes from the June 20th, 2023 regular town council meeting.
Move the consent agenda.
Second.
Move and second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Ordinances, first reading for amendment to the zoning ordinance for Assessors Plat 2, Lot 51, from B business to R8 residential.
Move the ordinance.
Second.
Move and second. Cronin?
Mr. President, Thomas Cronin, 1070 Main Street, Coventry, Rhode Island, for the applicant. The, this was introduced to the council on June 20th and referred to planning. We had the hearing before planning last night, and they did vote to recommend approval of the zone change to the town council. So we're here tonight for the first reading, public hearing, which has been noticed and advertised. So 701 Main Street is the former Central Coventry Fire Station, Harris Fire Station, or Phoenix Fire Station. It's on a lot that's 9,108 square feet. 649 square feet of that is in West Warwick. It's AP2 Lot 51. 8,459 square feet is in Coventry, on the Coventry tax rolls as AP 96, Lot 46. The portion of the lot that is in West Warwick is the eastern corner. It's right next to the Bill's Pizza sign on Main Street. That's the corner that's in West Warwick. Obviously adjacent to the fire station is Bill's Restaurant to the south and Main Street to the north. The town line runs through on a diagonal, which touches that corner of the building and then continues through the patios at Bill's and then across the street. In West Warwick, that line, that corner of that lot that the line runs through is zoned B. We're asking that it be rezoned to R8. The proposal is to rehabilitate the former firehouse into a 3-unit residential apartment building with 3 apartments with 2 bedrooms each. So the majority of the building, other than where the line touches the building, is in Coventry. So in addition to what we have to do here in West Warwick, we'll also be going through the town of Coventry to their planning department and their zoning board as well. So there are no physical changes proposed to the outside of the firehouse. The stone portion will be the same. The garage doors will be changed. We're not going to build behind the garage doors, but so 2 apartments on the first floor and some owner's storage behind where the office and storage is now, and then 1 apartment on the second floor for a total of 6 bedrooms. The parking for the apartments will be on the north side of the building, away from Bill's. There are 9 spots on that side. Those will be the parking for the apartments. And the parking on the south side adjacent to Bill's will be reserved for Bill's, so we'll have the residents parking on one side and the Bill's customers parking on the other. There are no, there's really not an opportunity to reform or redesign this building other than the existing structure, quite close to the Patuxent River, not just the buffer, but the actual river itself. So to make any expansion of the business in any way is going to involve a lot of DEM work and might frankly be prohibited by DEM. So in short, we're trying to coordinate between West Warwick and Coventry to have this become a residential use along Main Street. And in order to do so, one of the first steps is to have West Warwick change the zone on that 649 square feet from B to R8. I will need to also appear before West Warwick zoning if the council should approve the change as in R8, multifamily housing requires a special use permit. So there'll be one additional layer here in the town of West Warwick. So if the council has any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Any questions for Tom? Any public comment on this ordinance?
Alan Palazzo, 5 Robin Lane, West Warwick, and I do have a question regarding the planning board meeting. I went on today and looked for the minutes or the tape. Sarah's informed me that they don't tape it. Can't we train someone else in the clerk's office so that it is taped? And Mr. Cronin made a comment that it was approved last night by the planning board. Was that unanimous? I'm not, can I refer to him?
Marilyn's here.
Okay, it was. So even though we have the attorney for Mr. DiMartino in a case here, He voted on that and I just was, I was,
And that case has been dismissed.
excuse me, was there an ethics opinion sought whether or not Mr. DiMartino could in fact retain Mr. Cronin as his attorney in a case against the court? That's, I just want it on the record.
Can't
I
answer
know
that.
it's been dismissed, however, comma, I see a problem here. Thank you.
Any other public comment on this matter? Hearing none, for the record, Councilman Messier recused himself. Roll call vote, Jay,
Yes.
Mary Beth,
Yes,
Mark,
Yes.
and I vote yes.
President, I ask that the second reading of the ordinance be placed on the next
August.
August 15th, I believe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry. First reading of ordinance 2023-19, amending section 5.3 use regulations, non-residential districts.
move the ordinance.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Members of council, this is just a change in allowing two-family in a B zone, multifamily in a B zone with special use permit. It was a favorable recommendation from the planning board to the council last night. It was a request made by the town planner, and she's here to explain it to you.
Marilyn, just for the public, can you just give the definition of a B zone, please?
The business zone, B zone is the business zone. And currently, in our zoning ordinance, it doesn't permit residential. But if you look at our zoning map and see the existing land use that's in the B zone, the B zone is around the mills, so it's residential all around the mills. But yet the code says we can't have residential in the B zone. So I'd like to clean that up because we have infill lots that are small. People have come in and wanted to build houses on them, and I can't let them because the zoning ordinance doesn't allow for residential. And also, the mills are in those areas, and we have new regulations coming down from the state for a mill reuse to permit residential. According to our zoning code, I won't be able to do that. So I would like to close that hole so that we can get some of the vacant property, excuse me, occupied and some of the vacant lots rebuilt. And I've had several requests to do this, but I have to tell everybody, no, they can't. And I don't like to do that.
Any questions for Marilyn on this?
I do. So I know we have spoken about, say, an issue, we call it an issue, in my area, Ward 4, regarding a former business that is residential all around him. He's a business. He can't have, correct me if I'm wrong, he can't have residential in his place because he was a business, but there's residential all around him. So it's prohibiting him from renting the space. That's what I know of. Are there many other areas in town like that?
Yes,
Where are those areas?
mostly in Jason's ward.
So are we, if we make this residential, if a business comes in, a small, all right, I mean, an example.
Yes, the answer is yes.
Yes,
If
a business can't
wants to
come in and occupy that
it's
as well.
allowed.
Okay, so it's basically we're opening this up for use by either residents or businesses.
And the particular property that you're talking about, because the town did some improvements on the road, they've lost some of their parking capacity. The first floor, because it was a business, and have had people come in to want to purchase this piece of property, but they want to have residential there. And it's not conducive to have a business because there's no way for business type parking on the street.
Well, you don't want to put places in and then not have enough parking because
Right.
they're going to be parking everywhere. And that makes no sense. And it's going to be more police, more fire, all that stuff. So, and to be transparent, the business that we're talking about was a former Rhode Island Kitchen and Bath, which is over near
95 Manchester Street.
95 Manchester Street. So there's nothing hidden. We're not talking in code. I don't know about the other areas. So that's
They're
your
infill-
thing. That's your
Infill
thing.
lots in different areas. There's no specific place. Some are on Pulaski Street, some are well, I can't even think of the name of the streets right now. I didn't write them down, but there's been several. So I really would like to be able to occupy the empty spaces along Main Street and in some of the inner neighborhoods.
So I assume this is part of the project that you started when you came to West Warwick, when you started looking at our codes and our zones. And so this is really just getting our code up to, into reality, because that's what we have in these places. We
So
have
that the
homes.
zoning matches
That's
the
right.
existing land use
Correct.
and fixing some of the inconsistencies in the zoning code.
Correct.
Yes.
Makes sense.
And just a point of clarification, you said, even if we vote against this tonight, come January, the state's gonna just override us anyway with the mandate and make it happen either way.
I'm not sure they can do that in the B zone. They can with the mills,
Okay.
but other than, the infill places where we have empty first floors and things like that, I don't think they can do that.
All right.
But they
You-
can override us with the mills.
You had mentioned the mandate that's coming down, yet another one from the state. I just wanted to put it out there that, yes, the state continues to mandate stuff that may or may not be good for a community, and we don't have much of a say. So that's all. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Just the council's knowledge, there were 11 bills passed in this package. As of today, I was able to download the last two. In all honesty, I tried to read the 34-page bill today, and I have no idea what it said. It's a mess, but I can't say to you what you just said is going to happen until I go through. I've begun the preparation, but I will be submitting to the council a small statement on every one of the 11 bills that are in the speaker's housing package.
Thank you, Al.
But it's,
I'm just pointing out mandates and just makes everything so much more expensive in this state over and over again.
what bothers me even more than the mandates is the inconsistency. In one section, it's of the new act, it says that planning board appeals go to the Superior Court, Land Court. And it makes reference to an old section which says they go to the zoning board.
I look forward to your memos. Thank you.
And I'd just like to add one more thing. We're going to have to live with this for a year, but the planners in the state are not happy because the way the regulations are changing, bigger targets get put on our backs. So we have a year to live with this. And then, we'll find where the warts are in the process and maybe be able to make some changes in a following year, hopefully.
Any questions for Marilyn? Any public comment on this ordinance?
One more question. I'm not sure if it's this one. I believe it's this one. A question was asked on Zoom. Apparently it didn't get forwarded, so they asked me to ask the question. Is the Harris Fire Station a historic building, and does that affect this in any way?
That's the one before this.
All right, but I just got it because the question was asked on Zoom and it apparently didn't register.
Is there anybody on?
And Mr. Villa might be able to answer, because I know it was mentioned somewhat last night.
Fire stations in Coventry, Paul Villa, 15 Janet Drive. I'm also a planning board member alternate. The actual building's in Coventry, so anything to do with the building, I believe, and Al can answer this, is gonna go through
Just the
Coventry.
bell towers in West Warwick.
Okay, so
Portion of the bell tower.
so whatever they're gonna do with that zone down there, or whatever they're gonna do with the building, I assume is gonna have to go through Coventry. As far as this ordinance goes, I'm a little concerned because passing an ordinance like this, there's nothing that's gonna keep any developer now from coming in and buying every vacant business on Main Street and turning it into a residential property. Am I correct? No, I'm not correct? Okay, so tell me what is there?
Main Street is
The Arctic Building.
it's controlled by the Arctic redevelopment.
That's
and
correct.
the
I forgot. They
ordinance
have more power than anybody.
The
from what I'm
ordinance has
told.
nothing to do with
So let's use another section of town, Phoenix then. Okay, nobody can stop anybody from going into businesses along Main Street in Phoenix, because we don't have one of these autonomous things that goes on and out up here, but they can buy up all those businesses and turn them into residential properties if we do this, correct? There's no need for pre-existing use as a resident, because I know some of the stuff that was mentioned last night was that, oh, we have buildings that used to be in the old days, stores on the first floor, residential on the second, so this is gonna clean those places up, and I can understand that, but basically, this could just wipe out the entire business area in the town, and I just think you need to look at that, because, again, we're heavy residential. It puts burden on our town services, police, fire, and schools, okay? And it puts burden on the property taxpayers in the town, because a lot of these people that come in and develop these properties are not town residents. They're investors who come in here, they build their stuff in town. In some cases, they get tax deferrals to do this. And then the property taxpayers, who I have been one for decades, we all pay the bill for all the kids that come in, for all the fire protection, for all the police protection. And I don't know that that's a good concept and plan for the town going forward, to exclude these business areas and put them into residential dwelling units. So that's my spiel, and I'm just putting that out here for
Al, just a quick question on that. I know, for instance, there are 1 or 2 buildings in the Phoenix area that are in litigation right now that they're trying to turn into some sort of housing. What happens with that type of litigation?
I didn't, yeah.
Hudson Cleaners, the old Hudson Cleaners, that's in litigation right now. They want to put a hotel style.
I don't think it's in litigation.
Well,
Is
it's, they're,
Was that for the hotel?
that's for the Hudson Cleaners going into a hotel now.
Hotel.
Does this type of ordinance now authorize that hotel? That's what I'm asking. Because they want to make it kind of like what the hotel is now. And the hotel is mostly Airbnb, except for the top floor, but most of the hotel is Airbnb. And I know they were looking at putting a second and third floor on that building.
Is that in a business zone?
Yeah, it's a business zone.
If it's in a business zone, the ordinance would say 1 and 2 family are permitted, multifamily would require a special use permit.
But again, as I said, I know they came before planning
They can.
and it got
withdraw-
denied, and they're appealing that.
Well, they would have to withdraw their appeal, I would assume.
But what I'm asking is, does that authorize them to do that
There's a-
hotel
if I-
concept
If
now?
I may, there's a distinction between 1 and 2 family residential versus hotel. So if that particular piece of legislation doesn't include hotels or B and Bs or anything
Does
like
not
that.
affect it. If they stick with hotel, this legislation has nothing to do with it.
Now, also with parking, that was a big thing down there in the Phoenix section.
The parking regulations would stand. They still have to have parking.
Just state your name and address for the record.
Frank Souza, I own 885 Main Street in West Warwick. I just wanted to come here and talk in favor of this ordinance. We purchased the building, we tried to rent out the first floor. It was a former attorney's office, weren't able to get a tenant. So we're hoping to convert it to residential to add a safer, comfortable place to live for people in West Warwick.
Thank you. Any other public comment on this matter? Just state your name and address for the record, Justin.
Justin Wilbur, 45 Green Street, West Warwick. I'm in favor of this. I think the town needs more residential. I know my family has been contributing towards that effort. I think we've put in 8 families in Arctic so far, with the intent of putting another 8, 16 up in the Harris Green area. I think this town needs new life and new families in the town. I think it'll help everybody. It'll increase tax revenue over time. And I think this will help do that. So we're in favor of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comment? from
Yeah,
the
I'd
council?
like to say something here. I think, Mr. Villa brought up a good point. I was looking at one particular area and one particular store, the former Bed Bath, former,
Island Kitchen.
Island Kitchen and Bath, sorry.
Yeah. That's a
and-
former too, though.
and that- And that's who's contacted me. After listening here tonight, I think there needs to be this can't be a free-for-all. And I disagree somewhat about all this more residential, because that cuts down the businesses. So Arctic used to be a business place. I know the world is changing, but we can't just keep going residential, putting more kids in the schools, which, as we all know, are at capacity. And we're gonna need a new school or additional building built onto an existing school. It's already come up from the superintendent. And that's what we need to think about as well. I'm not against development. I'm not against business. I'm not against residential. But we need a game plan going forward. And I'm all for what you're trying to do is to clean everything up, Marilyn. I just think we need to maybe take a step back with this and really look at what this could mean for the future. I'm not against it. I was for it coming into tonight or coming into last night. But I think we need to maybe clean it up and look what it's going to mean.
And that's
And-
why I asked the question, how many businesses this impact? Because what Mr. Villa said at the planning board meeting last night. I've sat here on other things and said, we need more business, less residential, more business. Because businesses, they don't usually have police and fire respond. They do, it's minimal, where residential have much higher chance. There's people there, more people, family. 22 years as a cop, trust me, I know. And they also put children in the school system. All these things are things that draw away from our tax base. But businesses, they come in, they just add to our tax base. They take very little away. So I was under the same impression that it was this one specific area. And that's why I asked how many businesses in Maryland. Your answer was many. So I think we need to step back on this one a little bit also. And I agree, it needs to be cleaned up because the way it's written doesn't make sense.
Well, from your constituent's point of view, he has 3 tenants that are interested in that building. A tattoo parlor, an adult bookstore, or a massage parlor. So sometimes you have to be careful what you wish for.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
There was a boom right there, right? Okay,
I'm just saying we need to look at a bigger picture, that's all.
one more time.
Justin Wilbur again. So I've been approached by local West Warwick business, a local West Warwick business that has stated if there was more residential and if I did a big residential project down there, they'd like a new restaurant here. It's a well-known restaurant from the city. I cannot say what it is at this time, but they're willing to put a very nice restaurant downtown if there were more people that they could trust to ensure that their business was profitable.
Downtown in Arctic?
In Arctic. But I
Near
guess
the gazebo, near the gazebo?
near the gazebo.
A lot of
And-
people hang at the gazebo.
But I think that when we talk about business, I think as a businessman, businesses thrive on profit. To turn profit, they need people with money in their pocket. That's what I'm working on. And I think this bill is, I think, bad for my company technically, because it's going to create more competition on the residential side. But it's good for the town. Competition is good. We want developers to come to West Warwick. This is bad for my business technically. It's good for everybody else. So
Just 2 things on that point.
yes.
One is when we've had other residents come in asking for tax breaks down in the Arctic area, we reluctantly gave in and to allow that for that very thought process is we want to draw those businesses in. So we have to have that balance, okay? The other part, I can't remember what the other part was. Give me a second. I think I am that old now. It's something you were just saying. Oh, sorry, it goes back to what Mr. Villa was saying. Down this ordinance won't affect Arctic. No effect on it at all.
Right.
Because the Arctic Building Association, the Village Association, they already handle all that. So this
Agreed.
would have no effect on that at
On
all.
Arctic, but it would, so I don't mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. I'm just saying, but you're saying that this restaurant wants to come into Arctic.
Yes.
So this would have no effect on that restaurant or any.
Correct, but my point is that when residential and businesses work together, you can, it takes both. You can't just have businesses with no new residential, in my opinion, because, you know, you need a thriving residential community to support a thriving business. And I think if you have, so I get your point. So this will affect everywhere else.
But
And it-
Arctic.
Yes,
Right.
yes.
So that's all I wanted, just to make sure you were clear on that, this won't affect Arctic at all.
Okay.
So.
Thank you so much. Yep.
Hey, Alan, you got that? Any other comments on that? We taking a roll call vote? Jason?
I think we need to look at it a little bit better. So no.
Okay,
Yes.
Mark,
No,
Mary Beth,
Yes.
and I vote yes.
And I do believe we have to put some rules around it, but this takes care of a problem that the planner believes she has, and I want to support that.
And again, it's first reading, so if you
Yes.
have any suggestions and
So how to
whatever,
change it.
reach out to
Exactly.
Marilyn and
Yep.
we can go from there.
definitely have to be some other things attached to it.
Yeah.
Liquor licenses, town council acting as liquor commission, request from Cocktail Hour Essentials LLC for a Class BV limited liquor license.
Move approval of license.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Are you the future business owners? You can come on up, because I do have a question. I was reading about it and I asked about it at the clerk's office. I think it's a great idea. If you want to just explain what you're looking to do and just state your name and address for the record.
All right, I'm Karen Moore. It's my husband, Rich Moore. We live at 5 Glacier Way in Coventry.
Just explain what you're doing.
All right, so we're looking to open a to-go artisan cheese shop that has wine and wine and beer and limited availability, as well as provisions that you need to take what you need to entertain at home. We'll have boat boxes, beach boxes, baseball boxes for you to go and take things away. We really don't have that type of a,
That's the camera.
we really don't have that type of, I guess, entertaining cheese charcuterie type place, what we're going to be offering in this neck of the woods.
Any questions for the owners?
Yeah, where is this going to be located?
Next to Aqualantes in the Quaker Valley Mall.
697 Quaker Way. Any public comment on this? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Good luck, and I
Good
think
luck.
it's a
Yeah,
great,
good luck.
great
Yeah.
idea.
Thank you.
You're gonna have to reset that. That's the thing that happens
Wanna
all
take
the
a brief
time.
recess? Or
Yeah, 'cause we'll be-
We're gonna take a 2-minute recess. We do have to reset the cameras because it's gonna, that's the server.
I think you came in too late.
All right, we're back.
All
We need a
right,
new APC for it says low battery. That's been low battery for now for many weeks. So
let me text Joe.
they're already working with Joe, so,
Oh, perfect. Even better.
but we're back on.
All right, business licenses.
You get the license.
I don't see anything.
Yeah, full.
Move the business licenses.
Second.
Moving the business licenses and seconded. Any questions? Any public comment? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Appointments and resignations. Request from Robert Flurry for appointment to the Patuxent River Authority for term ending June 30th, 2026.
Move the appointment, excuse me.
Second.
Moving second, any discussion? Is Robert here tonight?
I don't know Robert Flurry. But we have 3 members from West Warwick on the River Authority. I know Sam Britson is no longer on, which was a huge disappointment. He did an unbelievable job, put a lot of time in. So there's an open spot. So
How long has this been posted, Sarah?
I don't know anything about this man at all, so all I see is an application which really doesn't say too much. And being that he's not here, I can't say anything positive or negative. So I'm not looking for another person. I think we need to know more about this I need to know more about this applicant before I say yes or no. So,
Does anybody know,
No.
Mr. Flurry?
And
Yeah.
like you said, very limited
Table,
information.
table it till the next meeting. Take no action, table. Okay, I'm gonna make a motion to table this
what
request.
should what are our options?
You already moved and seconded. So, that, table it, suggestion.
Make a motion to rescind our moving the name of Robert Flurry.
Second.
Moving second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
And I'll make a motion to table this item to the August
15.
15th meeting.
Second.
And again, Robert's phone number's on here if anybody does want to call him. I know I'll probably do so within the next 2 weeks, but I did not do that this time.
Yeah, maybe if you could reach out
Information.
and also have him come to the, maybe we could reach out and if he was here, we could have maybe asked him some questions and done that, some of that here, but.
All in favor, the table?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Request for appointment to the West Warwick Planning Board for 5-year term.
Move the name of Joe DiMartino.
Before we begin, due to,
Can't discuss
A-
it
a
until we
written
get a
s-
second. Until we get a
I'm
second.
not discussing anything.
Before you discuss
I can't
this matter.
discuss.
No, I understand, but before you discuss this matter, let's either get a second or no second.
That's fine.
Just-
Your call.
Do I have a second? I'll second for discussion.
Okay. I have to recuse myself because there's a written statement by the Ethics Commission that I have to do so. So I am.
I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion on Joseph DiMartino?
Yes, I actually, I would like more information about, I know Mr. Palazzo got up and talked about a relationship with Mr. Cronin. I think it's only fair that we allow Mr. DiMartino to be heard. He's not here today. He is a long-term planning board member. I'm not sure it would change anything, but I don't know all the facts and circumstances of what
Well,
is being talked about.
but the facts that we do know is that Mr. DiMartino sued the zoning board
Correct.
and hired Mr. Cronin as his attorney. And for almost 5 full years, Mr. Cronin came before Mr. DiMartino as Mr. DiMartino was chairman of the planning board. And Mr. DiMartino never recused himself, which is a violation of the Code of Ethics. So we do know that. We also know that Mr. DiMartino knew this was on the agenda tonight. He also knew that there was discussion about this, and he chose not to be here. The other applicant is in the room tonight, and I think that we should move I want to move his name. I know I can't right now because we have it on the table, but I think that we should vote on this tonight. Mr. DiMartino's term is up by the end of this month, which means nothing will happen until after the next planning board meeting.
So with the other applicant, and no offense to the other applicant, but there's already 2 alternates on the board that might want to be full members. This is a full member position.
And those other, part-time members knew this was on. They could have applied. They chose not to. So,
Yeah, I disagree with that. You're probably not going to do that. I
not?
mean, maybe you're happy with the chairman that you have.
okay, but if you still want the full-time, you put your name in. What does it hurt to put your name in?
I'm going to make a motion to table this item as well to the August meeting.
I don't think we should be tabling this. We have a qualified applicant on the agenda who's in the room. This was all put out in the public for many months. Everybody knew it was gonna happen tonight, and if the choice is to not be here, then the choice is to not be here. Again, he violated the code of ethics for 5 years. He had nothing done to him, no punishment at all. And I just don't think that it's sends the right message to the town that you can do something like that and then have everything delayed, the whole town delayed on the planning side because you chose not to show up to your own appointment.
I know I've had some conversation with the individual and what I'm being told, and Al, you can maybe address this. First, he asked, now I'm gonna put you out there. Did you give him the advice that he can hire Mr. Cronin?
I don't remember. He said to me that I had given him advice. My position as of today, would still be that if I were asked and I gave the advice, it would be that he was not acting unethically. My version of the ethics ruling would be that if he had a beneficial relationship, or if he would benefit from Tom appearing, there would be a ethics commission. By Tom appearing, he had nothing to do with any of
No
Tom's
financial
clients.
gain.
That would be my opinion. I'm not the ethics commission. I don't know what the ethics
And
commission would be.
secondly, Mr. Solicitor, I'm gonna put you out there as asking the question of Mr. DiMartino stated that he asked for this case through his attorney to be dismissed in 2019. Did Mr. Cronin reach out to anybody because when you say
only-
5 years, I'm being told that he asked for it to be dismissed in 2019.
Yeah, but it's his responsibility to make sure his attorney did what he said he was gonna do, right?
I'm not,
It's his responsibility as the chairman of the
I'm
board.
not upset about it. I'm not arguing about it.
I'm just saying,
I'm
as
just
the chairman
saying-
of the board, it's his responsibility to make sure that was done. Because the ethics, one of the very first paragraphs in the ethics rule, paperwork, whatever you want to call it, the little charter thing, is to not have the appearance of anything unethical. Okay? When you hire an attorney who's before you on just about every single project in this town, Mr. Cronin handles just about every single project in this town. And he's the chairman of the board and doesn't recuse himself from one thing. And when that's his personal attorney standing before him, I think majority of people say it gives the appearance of being unethical. I don't think that's up to any question. I mean, we could take a hand vote right here. Does anybody think that's unethical? I mean, the appearance of unethical? I mean, hell,
Well, I have a motion.
you asked the solicitor a question. You've been waiting to answer, and I apologize for interrupting.
The only thing I can comment is the record speaks for itself. The complaint was filed on September 19th, 2018. The dismissal stipulation was filed on March 9th, 2023. So whatever contacts or communications he had regarding what his attorney was supposed to do, that's not reflective of this particular record in the Superior Court.
Any other comment from the council?
Well, I guess I still am not clear exactly what happened, to be honest with you. And we do know some of the facts, but I don't even know that those are the facts because I hear different versions.
Mr. Williamson just explained the facts. Mr.
No.
DiMartino.
So, Mr. Williamson just explained what the record is.
Okay, you
The-
explain
the-
the record.
the-
Is
the
the record-
facts-
Is the record factual?
My understanding,
the court
it's-
record, so it's
it's-
factual,
it's the court portal, yes.
Yeah, so it's the court record, so it's factual.
Sure.
The court would not be putting anything that's not factual up, correct?
Yeah.
First off, I'm not on trial. Please don't cross-examine me, but I would
I'm just-
assume that the facts that are listed in the court portal are correct.
Okay,
Yes.
so the facts in the court portal from the court is a lawsuit was filed by Mr. DiMartino in 2018. He hired Mr. Cronin as his attorney at that time, and it wasn't dismissed until 2023. And Mr. Cronin was his attorney the whole time and came before him on just about every large project that came before this town for 5 years. That's the facts. I don't see where we need to delve into anything more. Even if he did ask Mr. Cronin in 2019, because I went back and checked the records, he didn't recuse himself in 2018 or 2019. And then he continued to not recuse himself, even though he claims that he told, you said he said that he told Mr. Cronin to take it out, but it's still his responsibility to make sure it's done. You get that letter saying that this case is closed. If you never got the letter, you should be calling, hey, Tom,
That's
what
why
happened?
I asked that question. Did we ever receive anything? Because personally, if I asked my lawyer to do something, you're right. And the other question I had was, how come you never knew? And to be honest, I don't think he's ever read our agendas to say, our legal matters, like when we put it out there, when we have our reports or whatever, that it was on there. I'm the one who actually said it when it was on there. I said, are we serious here? Because it is an issue that I figured a chairman of a board suing the town of West Warwick, and they have the right to. Don't get me wrong.
I
they
don't have a
the
problem with
right to.
that. That's not the issue.
And
And if he would have recused himself every time Mr. Cronin came before him, this would not be a conversation. But he didn't. That's the issue.
any other comment from the council? I have a motion and a second for Mr. DiMartino. I'm going to take a roll call vote. Mark,
No,
Jay,
No.
Mary Beth,
No,
and if I vote yes or no, it's going to be a no. So it's a tie. It means no.
I'd like to move the name of Derek Reed.
I don't have a second. Motion fails.
I actually believe it should be reposted. I believe that the alternate should have an opportunity to apply for the position. And I made that clear to Mr. Reed earlier today. I'm sorry. No, not yet.
Not fully.
Well, all I know is Mr. Reed is very qualified
I
and,
don't disagree with you.
well, then if we're looking for what's best for the town, and we have a very qualified person who took the time and the effort to put in and do everything that he needed to do, again, it sends the wrong message to people of this town that you do all the right things and it's still not going to get you anywhere. You're still going to just,
I
be tabled.
disagree. I believe that.
that's the message that was just sent.
No, that's the one you received, but
That's the one that was sent.
not by me. I believe the alternates that are sitting on the board should have the opportunity to apply.
The alternates had the opportunity when everybody else had the opportunity.
Mr. Villa, you are an alternate, correct? I'll let you come up and speak on that. He's an alternate. Mr. Licciardi, you have to recuse yourself for an ethics. I don't think you should come up to the microphone.
For voting. Yeah, he can speak. He can.
Normally, there's no public comment on.
Paul Villa, 15 Janet Drive. I am one of the alternates. Just so we clarify this issue, this is not an issue that I did not want to apply. In past years, the alternates, I was under the understanding, just moved up as full-time members dropped off. All right, I guess now you have to apply for the full-time position. So from here on out, you'll see my name in every full-time position. All right, because I don't strive to be an alternate the rest of my life, I guess, if I'm going to be on
And
the
I
board.
believe that as an alternate, you should have that
But
opportunity.
in this case, I'm not going to get into the middle of this one. I just don't want you to think I have no desire to make that application.
And Mr. Villa, if there's anybody else besides Mr. Reed that I would like to see as a permanent member, it's you, because I think you need to have that vote up there because you come up with a lot of things that, as you said last night, I'm just an alternate. I don't have a vote. Do what you want to do, and they do.
I
they don't
appreciate
listen,
that,
so.
Councilman, but I just want to make it clear for my part, I can't speak for the other alternate, but for my part, that's why there wasn't an application, because I was under the wrong impression about how things work.
And I'm not sure exactly how it works, to be honest with you. I'm not sure we've had this situation before.
Not since I've been on.
And,
I've been on a long time.
again, I only think that it's fair that an alternate, if there is a full board opening, which there seems to be now, should have an opportunity to apply for it. I actually had that conversation with Derek earlier today.
And
So,
by the way, I have no problem with Mr. Reed's qualifications either, so.
No, no.
Thank you.
And again, Mr. DiMartino can reapply and show up and discuss it, whatever you like also. We're voting on nothing.
Well,
No, we
No, it's
took no
gotta be
action.
reposted.
we voted no for Mr. DiMartino.
We took no action on you because we didn't get a second. Thank you.
Mr.
That needs to be, continue to be posted.
Yep, I'll post it again. Yeah, you can.
If you can, based on the ethics, then fine.
Just normally, the council has the job of appointing, and that's not open to public discussion. So I want to say.
Oh,
I'm just
all right, okay.
responding for clarification. I'm not going to say anything about the appointment or reappointment. However, regarding the ethics, written ethics decision that has come up, which is actually in town hall, and Attorney DiFiore is a copy of, I have to recuse myself from any appointment or reappointment of planning and zoning until the next election cycle, which I totally understand. But also in that advisory decision, I can't appear as Jason Licciardi, 26
That's
Carlson
fine.
Circle, as a citizen in front of planning, zoning, or the town council.
Mhm.
So I'm very aware, believe me, I've spent hours watching this advisory decision to make sure that I'm in compliant and I'm doing my due diligence in following the ethics code.
And this
That's all I want to say.
This goes
That's all.
back,
But I want that on the record, please.
this goes back to my point with Mr. DiMartino. Here you are, you're an elected official. The Citizens Award.
Not
for-
right now.
No, I'm saying it in general. The Citizens Award for elected you to represent them, but yet you can't represent them because it's somehow a violation of ethics just because your house also happens to be near the development that your neighbors and everybody else that's around you that elected you want you to represent them on, but you have to recuse yourself.
Correct.
But yet Mr. Cronin, Mr. DiMartino can hire Mr. Cronin, and there's no issue and people just want to reappoint him, no big deal. But you can't do what you're duly elected to do, and he's just appointed.
Thanks for reminding me.
Yeah,
Yes.
what you're
It's very
duly
difficult, it's a very
elected
awkward situation to be in, and I'm very offended by someone who doesn't recuse himself in that situation. For the simple reason that in about 30 seconds, I'm gonna be up there and I have to recuse myself for all those reasons, just like another councilman had to do tonight. And he's doing his due diligence, so he's following the ethics code, and I know everybody else has done it, so it is what it is, but I'm not talking about that tonight. I'm just clearing up that situation. So please put it on record.
Thank you.
New business, discussion action, town financial assistance for the West Warwick Steelers.
All right.
Welcome back, Councilman.
So after the last council meeting, I know we had a lot of discussion with the Steelers. I did attend the meeting later on that week. I think it was the Wednesday. I have members of the board from Crompton Vets are here. Just to clarify, they have a working relationship with the West Warwick Steelers, have no intentions of throwing out the West Warwick Steelers winter program, fall winter program. The spring summer program, they still don't want no part of that portion of it, which is the Ocean State Steelers. Upon that discussion, the map that Jeff had sent to us, I was walking the field with a couple of parents, and we noticed that 4 or 5, and Mark sent us the lighting costs earlier today, which I didn't get a full chance of looking at, but I do have it in front of me. I printed it up from Glenn Olson. But
Lighting cost to purchase lights?
the purchase lights, now 4 and 5 of those poles are on our property. So we ultimately could own those poles. And if we did put lights on, and I know you and I questioned that going back a few years ago, that if we can put those lights, and they said, no, that's the Crompton Vets property, it's private property. Well, further discussion, we discovered that's our property. Half, believe it or not, half that field in, and like pole 5, 6, and 7 are on Crompton Vets property because it boxes out and comes like this. So they worked out the parking. Parking will be taken care of at Maisie Quinn School. And it'll have a walkway coming down from Maisie Quinn, which will also be lighted up.
Taken care of by us, by the town.
By
correct?
us, it's us and Maisie Quinn, the school department. They also were looking at having I want to say, I forgot what the wording was, but it was like for Maisie Quinn, a safe zone if they have to get down to the field or whatever. So that's the stairway and so on and so forth. I didn't get that.
Yeah, I didn't either.
Did you send it to the whole council or just?
That one, I think I might have just did the attachment on an unrelated thing, just so you'd have it.
All right, I'll send this off to everybody, but one of the things, dollar amount wise, so let's go back to the 4, 5 lights. I can pass this off if you guys want to read it real
You
quick.
saying light numbers 4 and 5?
Oh,
Well,
the
4,
poles.
4 or
Pole
5
coming from
poles?
Maisie Quinn, there's 4 poles, maybe even 5, that are on town property. So we can install new lighting on those poles. And I think they feel that there's enough lighting to light that entire field. Believe it or not, when Maisie Quinn's lit, Amby Smith is lit, half that field is lit. So with the poles that are there now and the lighting that's available through, they use the same type of lights, so on and so forth. That would be our lights now. And now we are taking care of the Steelers with lighting. And it'll be our maintenance, which will be LED lighting, which they're saying lasts a long time. Also, with that being said, everything comes to the fuse panel over there off the existing lights. So at that point, we could take the electricity bill over and put it in our name and put it towards the energy funding. I think I spoke to Kristen about it via email, that we can put it on the wind turbine accounts and just put that into a West Warwick account name. So that way their lighting, field maintenance, and electric bill are all taken care of for the Steelers. And also there's been already some questions about some soccer and whatever else. And I told them we can work with Crompton Vets and, work together and see what can be done. But all in all, very constructive meeting. I think we came to an agreement that, lighting and electric bill will take care of a lot of their problems. And going back to the building that was being taken down, we are looking for volunteers to take that building down. I think Jeff has some already. So that has nothing to do with the town taking down the building.
That's the number. Yeah, I mean, so we're not gonna vote on anything here tonight. I assume that we're gonna have to have something brought
I'd want
before
this
us.
on the probably August agenda.
Yeah, okay,
But
with more
what
information.
what I'd like to see is the funding come out of 1721. Mark and I discussed that, the 1721, which would be, that's what
Yeah,
it's used
yeah.
for. And we can hopefully
What
get
are what are we looking at as a cost? Or is this in here?
25.
27,459 for the 4 poles that are on town property.
Oh,
So
because those are
41
big
number.
numbers. There's some big numbers on
Yeah,
that.
he's got a $40,000 number on there. It's not the number. It's 20.
It said
There-
16 lights.
I don't know, I just forwarded the newest one because the first one came with all the poles
Yeah.
this morning.
It's in there.
So just the 4 town poles was $27,459.
And what is in, I know there's a big number in 1721, but rough ballpark, what is?
I believe it was at 280
Yeah.
last.
Yeah, we haven't used it
before
anything, right?
we just used some of it.
But there's more than enough money to cover.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this way, I know the Steelers are here. Like the president said, this satisfies everything. The Steelers are now, football is just like baseball and soccer and basketball. So all the sports are taken care of the same way. Fields are cut, lights are done. It's gonna maintain the field and watch the parking, right?
Mr. Governor, if you want to come up and just. Just state your name and address for the record.
Mike Lovin, 60 Bonner Street. Yeah, that would help us tremendously. Like, right, because right now we start in 3 weeks, we start July 31st. So the lights we did order to try to change all the bad bulbs are the wrong ones. So we have to go back and try to figure out how to get those bulbs, because that's how old they are. So we still have lights on them. We don't need them in like tomorrow, because it's still daylight by the time we end at 8 o'clock. But eventually it does get dark down there and we do need the lights on coming towards the end of August. September. Whatever, it's a tremendous help, so I don't care whenever it's done.
Not sure if it'll get done by the end of
Yeah,
August.
yeah, no,
but
Yeah.
again,
yeah, greatly appreciated, yeah.
any other concerns, questions?
Actually, how many poles are in there?
4 on that.
No,
4
no,
on
no,
the-
no, in its.
7.
And the other 3, and I'm not looking to spend more money, but are the other 3 adequate?
They actually feel that the 4 poles will light that place up like New York City.
Are the other poles on town property?
No,
No,
it's on there.
yeah.
Do they,
Okay.
all right, so while we're doing this, do they, like you just said, if we're gonna do 4, do we want to look at to doing all 7, just to make sure it's all done at the same time?
It's on
Seven
private, it's on
will,
private
7
property.
will actually be
Right.
overkill and overbright.
Okay.
Like I said, when Amby Smith turns their lights on, and we were kind of joking about it that night, we were out there that late walking it, right? And I said, holy cow, and actually last Thursday, Amby was lit up, and I said, half the field was lit up, so.
All right.
But we gotta count on Amby's,
No,
nobody
we don't
on,
have to
nobody
count on
on Amby
Amby,
Smith,
but
you
the
know?
amount of lighting, Amby's got 5 poles around their property, and it lights up Amby and half their field. So it should light up, 4 of those poles should light up that entire field, like a Christmas tree.
Plus the other poles on private property. anyway.
Yes.
Yeah.
So after this 27,000, the only thing that's gonna be a cost is electricity, which is gonna come from the turbine, so it really doesn't cost the taxpayers anything.
Yes, because we have
Credits. that-
Credits that need to
excessive
be,
credits
they need
that
to be used, right?
so.
Because we have-
Just to clarify to the people,
Last time I heard that we have like so many credits, we don't even know what to do with them, so.
you use them or you lose them.
No, we don't lose them, we sell them.
We
but-
sell them,
Okay, all right.
right.
But
Yeah.
again, they're also trying to put a cap on
Yep,
what
you
each
can-
municipality makes in
But
electricity,
with,
so.
yeah, but with that, we wouldn't be able to sell them or we
Why would
would.
they do that when they care concerned about the environment?
But we can still sell them, but we want to make sure we're using them.
Talk
Yeah.
about both sides of them.
Also, there's also a kilowatt reduction with the existing lights they have now. It'll actually reduce the kilowatt reduction by 17,168. So, and also a CO2 reduction.
Yep.
16,000 pounds.
Well,
Based on what the,
8.
what's,
Yeah,
what
that's-
kind
This
of-
one's, I'm sorry, it says
8.
7.
It's 8.
Glenn, you gave me
Yeah.
the 7-pole one.
There you go.
that's
Yeah.
based on the lights that are there now, Dave?
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, I'm good. I don't know if like the vets are here. I mean, that's ultimately their decision. Obviously, they're helping us give us the field. The lights would be from you, that's your property, but I don't know if they want to talk or.
and
or
if you want to
speak
just,
on that.
you- come on, just state your name and address for the record.
Valentino Ferone Jr., 60 North Pleasant Street.
Oh.
I'm the commander on the vets. If the town's gonna do that part of the lighting and is adequate for the Steelers, that's fine.
And like I said, they have a great working relationship moving forward. And I think, I know some of us heard they were thinking about throwing them out, whatever, here at the council chambers, but they're very cooperative, want to work with both the organization and all the children of West Warwick, whatever they can do to help out.
So we were down there Sunday, we cleared, like, you probably remember, there used to be a path, you could walk up to Maisie Quinn without the stairs, there was a pass through the woods. So we like took chainsaws and cleaned it out because the stairs ain't built yet, so obviously parents can't walk down that hill. But there is a gate that's there that's locked, so I don't know who has that key to
That would be Parks and Rec.
have it open on the Thursday and Friday if we choose to use the field then, so we don't affect their parking, we park up there. And if we can, anytime soon, we can get the dumpster so we can clean the concession and we start in like 2 weeks.
Parks and Rec.
I know Jeff's not here today, but Jeff,
Glenn's here.
Glenn.
Yeah.
There would be a
Okay.
contact.
Thanks,
Mike,
Glenn.
Okay,
So, and they can make things happen, so.
okay. I'm good, thank you guys, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, thank you.
So there'll be
Thank you for
something
your-
formal that will
I'll
come before.
formalize the
Thank
quote
you.
and have
Okay.
a resolution prepared for the August meeting. Unless we can,
Can we tell them to start work now?
if I can get, well, if I can get it formalized and we have a special meeting.
Yeah, right.
Then we can.
And you said the
propose that
school
too.
department's paying a portion of this?
No, they
No, it's
they
just
they
for the
help
Steelers.
maintain.
No.
The Maisie Quinn
The Maisie
property.
Quinn walkway down.
Okay.
Property,
I don't
yeah.
know what the agreement is there, but again, I know
working
there was
together.
questions
Right.
about the
Minor.
building, there was questions on the building on the field. The town is not taking down the building, but they are looking for volunteers to help take down that building to make it safe over there too. Again, Crompton Vets always donates the field to local, I know softball's been down there, baseball's been down there. They don't have a problem with that. The building itself is in dire need of coming down. So, but we talked about maybe the fire department wanting to,
I was just gonna
practice
say the
on it.
same thing, they could
But
practice on
even there is a retired firefighter on the board, and he said it's too small to maybe do that. But chief, if you want to, have a barbecue or something over there, But again, we're just trying to figure it out.
So did we say, you just said with Quinn, we're putting that stairway in, there's gonna be a walk down. So that means parking will be at Quinn along with some existing parking at the vets?
Depending
So
on the time.
if there's
Or no?
handicapped or certain, yes. Thursdays and Fridays.
I would say Fridays probably are out.
Thursdays tough.
Right.
What's going on is, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, the Steelers can park at the vets. Thursday, Friday, we have activity there that, if they use Quinn, they're better off for the parents, better off for us.
Yep.
But Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday is wide open for the Steelers and any association, sports association that come down to the field.
And I think upon that agreement, you guys made comment that if somebody like in a wheelchair bound or whatever needs to park down bottom, you might have 1 or 2 parking spaces available and you're willing to work with that.
So that's my area. So every year, since I've been on the council, I haven't gotten many calls regarding off-street parking. So if they're not, if you'd rather have them park at Quinn, and because it's gonna come up, I can tell you it's gonna come up in August, so.
So this is what, it'd be wise for the town to do. What street is that over there? That they park on both sides?
Street.
All right.
Hepburn Street.
Hepburn, I should know that. Hepburn, if they could put up no parking on one side of the street, because as this activity goes on, there's no way any emergency
through.
vehicles gonna get through there.
So I think I sent you a text message. from
Yeah,
the
you did a
last
while
time.
ago.
When you leave the Crompton Vets parking lot, and you take a right onto Hepburn going to Manchester. From their parking lot to the corner, if there was no parking from there and let them park on the other side of the street, then it'd be fine. You'll be able to clear a path through there. But right now, they're parking on both sides. And when you leave there now, a regular truck has trouble getting through it, never mind a fire
Yeah,
truck.
this
on
is
it.
going on now. Never mind when football starts, it's
Right.
worse.
Can we speak possibly after the meeting?
Yeah,
Or can I get a
well-
hold of you tomorrow or whatever?
I'll give you my number because I'm not staying.
On
I'll
Val.
go with you. I'll go with you.
Val, what do you mean? Yeah.
Let me know when you're ready to leave and we can, quick.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
What's it for? Oh, terrific.
Is that at the old theater
Val.
diner? Is that
Good to
today
see
only,
you.
or is it a time frame on that? Just today? So if anybody's hungry after you leave here and you want to help a good cause, just saying.
Thank you. Thank you, Steelers.
Presentation from Reclaim Rhode Island relative to minimum housing issues.
How you doing? Just state your name and address for the record.
Hi, Shayna Crandall, 140 Stedman Ave, Pawtucket, Rhode Island. Other members of our group are residents of West Warwick. So good evening, council members. Thanks so much for your attention this evening. And thanks especially to Councilman Messier for his willingness to work with us to protect West Warwick tenants, your constituents. Such work is necessary because an alarming pattern of slumlord abuse exists in West Warwick. Not all landlords are slumlords. A slumlord is a landlord who does not do repairs, who price gouges tenants, and who evicts at high rates. Our goal tonight is to convey to you the magnitude of harm that slumlords are inflicting on your constituents, and with the hope that we can work together to find ways the town can help protect tenants from further abuse. So I'm a tenant organizer with Reclaim Rhode Island, and for the last year, we've been organizing the tenants of Slumlord Pioneer Investments, which has 65 buildings across Rhode Island and 20 here in West Warwick. This led to the formation of Pioneer Tenants United, which is a union of current and former Pioneer tenants working together to improve their living conditions and stop slumlord abuse in Rhode Island. Several tenant leaders from West Warwick are here tonight to speak with you in just a moment. You may have heard of Pioneer Investments. They're being prosecuted by the Attorney General for numerous and gross violations of the law, including lead poisoning at least 12 children, maintaining substandard conditions across the board, consumer fraud, and more. Leading up to this historic prosecution, there were several articles in the Providence Journal, including one focusing on West Warwick. And if you haven't had a chance to see these, we'd be very happy to share those with you. So Pioneer Investments, like all slumlords, has a business model that depends on harming already vulnerable people, often people who are one step away from homelessness. So slumlords draw in their victims with a combination that's irresistible to anyone who's housing insecure, and struggling to get by. The lowest rents on the market, at least to start off with, and immediate access, including pets. They may overlook bad credit or past evictions, but then you move in and the paint starts peeling, possibly containing poisonous lead. The mold starts making you sick. The refrigerator breaks and you lose hundreds of dollars in food. You pack up all your things for a bed bug treatment, only for no one to show up. And you have to send your kid to school with painful swollen bites again and do it all over. Rats the size of possums, dead rats in the walls, mice crawling in your child's bed at night. Through all of this, your rent keeps going up, often within the first year and every year thereafter. A tenant member's rent was doubled in 3 years while her home fell apart with no repairs. Last week, she found out that her child had been lead poisoned. So slumlords cycle people through substandard homes until they break, and then they try to run them through the eviction machine. Maybe a family member gets sick and someone loses a job and you fall behind on rent, evicted. Or you get so fed up requesting repairs and calling code enforcement with no results that you withhold the rent, evicted. Or maybe you get priced out because, like I said, rat-infested, poisonous slumlord apartments are not cheap, evicted. So clearly the system is broken. We don't know exactly what next steps you can take to fix these problems and protect your constituents. But clearly the code enforcement system is not working as it should be, and rent increases have gotten totally out of control. We want to work with you to identify and implement best practices so that West Warwick becomes a slumlord-free community. We're asking you to work with us to ensure that slumlords no longer violate your laws with impunity, and to pass new laws if necessary. I doubt any one of you here thinks that people should have to choose between a slumlord apartment and homelessness. So we'd like the opportunity to meet with each of you individually, to take you to see the conditions in a Pioneer apartment firsthand, and to return to future meetings so we can keep working on making West Warwick slumlord free. So thanks so much for your attention. I'm going to pass the mic to one of our tenant leaders, Kathy and Mary. You guys want to come up?
And I want to thank you for coming too. We've spoken dozens of times at this point, and this
Yeah.
is kind of an opening discussion. I don't know
Yeah.
how deep in the weeds we can necessarily go tonight. We've spoke of that, but I think it's a good opening conversation. And some of the stuff that's going on with the landlord you spoke about, I think is at least some progress here in West Warwick, because they own 60, 70 places in town alone. And I know that our minimum housing department their hands have been tied with a lot of these issues, and they've done to the max that we're allowed to do
Yeah.
with the laws right now. So this is kind of opening up a conversation. I know more people are going to talk, but
Absolutely. Yeah, we think of it the same way, just starting a dialogue. And so I just wanted to have some firsthand experience from tenant leader Kathy.
If I may, as you people know, how many times saying we can't go any further.
Oh.
I would like.
Yep.
to
Yep.
get in touch with me. But I've been before you a number of times.
It's frustrating.
We get the judgment, we get the lien, and then.
Just state your name and address for the record.
Hi, my name is Catherine Tucker. I live at 132 Third Avenue in Cranston. I'm a former West Warwick resident. My first encounter with Pioneer was back in 2018. I rented an apartment in Coventry. Within 2 weeks, and just like she said, come on in, don't worry about background checks, nothing, which is great. I mean,
Can you put the mic down just a little bit more because it's hard to hear? I'm sorry.
can you hear me now?
That's better, yes.
All right. So when I first went in there, it was quick. The guy texted me back right away. Do you make this much money? Yep, I do. Okay, great, you're in. Wow, thank you. About a month after I moved in, my kitchen light and a few lights in the apartment just went off. So I checked the fuse box. I didn't know it. I texted the landlord, and 2 days later, I got a text back saying, if you pay your bill, lights won't go off. Okay. And then 2 weeks later, they came and fixed my lights. So I eventually moved out of there. And then I moved into another apartment run by Pioneer in February of 2020. It's 306 Washington Street. And probably from the beginning, it was a nightmare. About right in the middle of COVID, my refrigerator went out. I called the property manager, I called the maintenance, I need a new refrigerator. It took me 2 months to get a new refrigerator. So I was literally filling coolers and buying ice for 2 months because they were trying to get a better refrigerator from another apartment instead of buying a new one. That was one. Then the sewage leak incident. The gentleman that lived in the basement apartment, he had moved out probably 6 months after I moved in there, and there was nobody there to clean out the apartment. I didn't see any action in, I'd have to say at least a year. Around springtime, you started noticing this awful odor. It was sewage. There was a sewage leak in that apartment that stayed untouched for months and months. I finally made a call to Rhode Island Housing, not Rhode Island Housing, Rhode Island Inspector Chuck, who is wonderful, by the way. But from what I understand, he's the only inspector in the state of Rhode Island, which is unacceptable. How on earth can you do your job when you're the only person? I mean, I don't know. Do we have one?
Talking about Chuck Davy.
Davies,
He's the only minimum housing inspector in West Warwick.
Oh, in West
In
Warwick.
West Warwick,
Okay.
yes.
I
And
was
we have
under
a
the
building
impression it
inspector
was
and
Rhode
minimum
Island.
housing.
Okay, my
yes.
bad. And he was very, very helpful. I know he had broken his arm at one point, but he had came out, he inspected the apartment, 4 pages of violations, 4. And so he was gonna get a hold of them, tell him he's got so many days to do it, or else it'd be fined daily. About 2 weeks, I heard nothing from either side, so I called and I couldn't get a hold of him, and that's when I found out, I guess he had broken his arm. Okay, understandable. But about maybe a month after that, I called him back and he said, okay, well, let me get a hold of him again. So what happened in the meantime? Did anything happen? I don't know. Did anything happen? And I'm sorry, but that's unacceptable. I have sewage in my basement. I have children. You pull into my driveway, you smell crap. It's unacceptable. And from what I understand, I'd actually gotten a message from a tenant who lived in my building 6 years ago. Same issue. I guess Chuck wasn't the inspector then, it was somebody else. But she said, she sent me her inspection form and it was almost identical. So 6 years, the same issues, and nothing happened. I finally, after my bathtub wouldn't drain because apparently they changed the switch on the thing or whatever, but they didn't fix the piping. So now whatever latch is in there is stuck. Okay, so they sent their maintenance guy out. He's like, yeah, we gotta take care of this right away. 2 months of texting, calling, nothing. I had it. I left. Done. And, oh, man, I'm sorry. I'm just getting a little feisty. Another issue I had with their maintenance people, repairing the roof till 2 o'clock in the morning. I called the cops. My second floor neighbor called the cops to find out why they're using a Sawzall at 11, 12 o'clock at night. And the cop came, I went out on my porch, I listened, and it was kind of like a friendly conversation. Like, oh, you really got to wrap this up. Oh, yeah, we will. They didn't wrap up till 2 o'clock in the morning. So, I mean, that's like, okay, now who do I call? This is ridiculous. So this is just, it was, I mean, I love West Warwick. I really did, but I had to get out. I had no choice at that point. I could not, because I didn't feel like I had anybody. I'm a single mom. I work crazy hours. I have a special needs daughter. I don't have time to chase people. And with these people, it goes by text messages and nobody responds to you, ever. Nobody. They tell you to go on their portal. They double charge you on their portal. When you pay your rent on the portal, they double charge you. And then when you try to fight them, they threaten to evict you. It's just, there's so many different things and it's so not fair. It's not fair. And like I said, I loved West Warwick, but I had to leave because I felt I didn't have a choice because we weren't heard. All our complaints kind of went unanswered. So I thank you very much for letting us come here, and I'm hoping we can work together to fix this because it's really not fair. I would love to come back to West Warwick. I really do. I miss it. But I had to do what I had to do for me and my family, unfortunately. Thank you very much for hearing us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anybody else part of your presentation? Just state your name and address for the record.
Mary Burrell, 89 Pond Street. I've been there for 9 years. Anarok took over, let's say February 2021, because we had a fire March 17th of 2021. So we bought a building knowing that we had fire issues, knowing that we had mice issues. I have 2 kids now. Whenever I walk into the kitchen, you can smell dead feces through the entire building because we have the drop ceilings like you guys do not have. But we always have water damage. He doesn't do anything about it. Like she mentioned, the portal doesn't work. They don't get answers at all. All of their maintenance crew are from Craigslist. I won't let them inside my house. If I can't feel comfortable with you in my home with my 2 kids, you're not coming in my home. It's been hell. Sorry. But it wasn't until I became a part of Reclaim when things got handled. I now have new floors. I now have new paint. I now have mouse traps everywhere. I do have the green little pellets that are not safe for kids and pets, but we do have those as well. But we're the ones who had to fix all the holes. We plugged all the holes for the mice. They didn't do anything with that. But that's just my story. But like I said, because of Reclaim, I got a eviction notice twice and had to fight and go to court for that as well. My case got dismissed, but because of Reclaim, things are starting to move, but they're slow. But that's just my part. I don't know what more can be done, but if you guys can help enforce it. I did have conversation with Chuck, but it didn't really go anywhere because he just paid the fines and moved on. That's not okay by me. I shouldn't have to fix my apartment. It should be up to the maintenance of the crew, but that's just me. So thank you.
Thanks. Sure. If they're on Zoom and they have, I don't. Yeah.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi. So I'm great. I am Melissa Grucey. I am actually a former resident of West Warwick. I was actually with you guys until actually July 1st is the official date that I had to leave Rhode Island due to the retaliation from Anarag. I'm actually in Florida doing this because I had been run out of your city due to the retaliation just for me speaking up. So my journey with West Warwick Code with Chuck has been amazing. Since 2020, he has tried to keep this landlord accountable, but something has happened in between, all the inspections that have failed in my house, which was 148 Brookside Ave, West Warwick. It consistently kept failing. I've had rats, I've had mold, lead paint. I'm the one that has been in the news where in the Providence Journal, you got to see all that nice water in my basement. That was there for 6 months. I have lost everything. Everything in that basement, we couldn't take with us. It's all gone. It has been fully ruined. Anarag still has not even given me my security deposit, hasn't even addressed the fact that I've left yet, won't even answer my own lawyer back. What I'm asking, please, I got forced out of the state. I got forced out of West Warwick just because we let a landlord not be held accountable for keeping his apartments safe, keeping his apartments up to just minimum code, which we're all asking for. just safe living conditions that we can come home to for our children to feel safe in. And it's continuing. I know from working within Reclaim, I've met many families that need help still. Fortunate for me, I do have a family member down here in Florida, but I am homeless because of what's going on right now. And because of the retaliation was so mentally draining on me and my family, I had to leave the state that is my home, that has been my home for 40 years, and nothing got done. So I really ask all of you, please, please make people like this gentleman accountable. Please help your communities, because what's happening is they're hurting and they voted for you guys. We've all voted for you guys. We all want you there to do your job and help us. All we ask is just please listen, and please, please make them accountable and do things right and not just patch it up, because what happened is they patch it up, but it's not really being done. And hopefully, more families will be in safer conditions, and I pray for the best, but I'm still hoping to someday be able to come back to Rhode Island. That is my biggest thing. I don't even want to be here, but I'm here due to being homeless right now with 3 children and retaliation from this landlord. So I ask, please listen to everyone, take it serious, because it is, because I'm out of the state because that's all. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
very
you,
much.
Melissa.
Just a quick question, for Reclaim Rhode Island. Have you,
You can step up to the mic.
have you, been in touch with the Attorney General, and are you working with the Attorney General on this matter?
We were able to
With
help
this one particular
coordinate a bunch
company?
of interviews that
Yeah.
led to the prosecution because we were already talking to so many families. We were able to just kind of facilitate getting that evidence recorded. And then since then, we've been connecting more tenants who, came out of the woodwork after seeing the prosecution. So in that sense, we've been, helping just facilitate communication between tenants and the Attorney General.
So what is it that we can do? I mean, really, Chuck, I think is great, goes out and does, we can put liens, and else you're sort of steaming as you're standing there, but
Yeah.
And
what can
suggestion,
we do? And maybe you can help
I
us
think we've
to
had
understand.
a lot of discussions, and kind of we've been doing the max, I think, that we can legally do now, unless we either add new ordinances, and then I think the bigger, and Al can kind of confirm this, some of those ordinances really won't do anything unless something happens up at the State House. And I know that you've been working hard up there as well. I mean, yes, we could add another minimum house, somebody else minimum housing, but that still wouldn't give us the ability to do,
To carry it out.
carry it
Right,
out more.
right,
Like you talked about some of these constituents who had issues go on, and we would find them and we would take them to court, and then you could condemn the house, right? But then you end up with an even worse situation. And because then, like you said, they're one step away from being homeless. So it's either in these kind of conditions or homeless. So you're your hands are tied at what point, and I've talked to Chuck about this, at what point do you want to condemn a house and force people to be homeless? It's a lose-lose in either situation. So it's about holding landlords accountable.
Right. I mean, some central pieces that we think could be really helpful in this fight are expanding code enforcement. Look, like, I'm not totally sure, and I'd love to hear from you guys how it works, but how are those fines collected, right? Is there a debt collection where those fines actually get taken from the landlord, or do they just kind of sit on the fine and
Al,
don't?
Interesting. Al can explain that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you explain that?
Yeah, I'll give us
Yeah.
a breakdown how,
The bad
because a
news
lot of
is
it's liens, right?
They're liens,
which
more
could-
it's not cash
I
typically.
would like to, council's authority to work with them.
Please do.
And a little earlier, I talked about the housing legislation. There's where the legislation is necessary.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking in my head. They're
There's where
spending
the
all their
legislation-
time
Spend
wasting
money on that.
time and money on the other stuff.
I may be saying what I shouldn't, but instead of. what
I'll
just
say it for you.
happened,
Tell me what it is and I'll say
that's
it,
what
because I
we
don't
should
care.
do.
No, you're
I
right.
would like to work with them and explain, let them know that they've told you what Chuck does. I think the world of Chuck. Chuck does everything he can, but we go to court, we get a judgment, we put a lien on the property, and they ignore us. And we have absolutely no way to enforce that lien until somebody up at the State House gives us authority
to foreclose or do something. We've come to situations where we now notify the mortgage holder. Some of them respond, some of them don't bother. They're collecting their money. They don't care. So I would like your authority.
Yeah, please.
to work with
And
them
whatever we, I
and
mean, to
see
the maximum
what
ability
we
that we're
can do.
legally allowed to do to help out these, and I've told you this, like, our hands are tied at this moment with a lot of the ordinances that we have in place now. but
Maybe
any-
we need to work with our local delegation at the State House to actually get some legislation in. So that's something that I think we should focus on.
Well, I just, you know my frustration.
Because it goes much bigger than, we've spent a lot of time speaking about this one particular
But there are
landlord,
others, yeah.
which is awful, but it goes much deeper than that, because we're not, this issue, you're not here, you may have been brought in because of this one landlord, but I'm sure that you've
There are others.
you've heard, I mean, this one, again, there's plenty of other ones, but this one is a ginormous, I mean, how many does this, we don't have to go, but hundreds in the state alone, so this is they're not all quite to this level, but there are other ones.
It is very difficult when you have a landlord that is not on site. Because either they don't know what's going on, or they'll allow anything that's going on. So just, I understand exactly what you're saying. A week ago, the bomb squad was across the street from me because of illegal activity from a landlord that isn't there and either does know what's going on in the property or allowed the illegal activity. So I totally understand what you're saying, but it's everywhere. It's everywhere.
Actually, one more tenant member was able to take a break from work and hop on the Zoom. Would we be able to hear from one more person?
Sure.
On the Zoom, it's Sebastian.
Sure.
Excuse me, I don't remember your name. How much was your rent at that place with the sewage? 1,100 a month. How many bedrooms? 3 bedrooms? And that was what year? Okay. 1850?
With the same issues.
Have you,
Yeah, I understand. I've had it.
If they can't get through, that they can tune the public comment for the end of this meeting too, or they can send an email or
But we would really love to work with you guys to hear sort of what the struggles of, actually collecting these fines, the liens. Another possibility is a rental registry, so we can kind of see what the code violations are, right? Because Chuck is actually great in all of Rhode Island, like one of the best at documenting and getting that documentation out. And we're so grateful for that.
which makes it more frustrating, right? When you're dealing with somebody that's so great and we still have these issues, which
Yeah.
tells you there's
Yeah.
a bigger issue at play.
Stabilizing runaway rents.
Yeah, and then but again, a lot of it becomes more of like, we don't have the teeth to enforce a lot of these things, like Al talked about, you can put a lien on there and they don't pay it, but
Yeah, well, we're so
That's-
grateful that you guys are willing to have this conversation.
absolutely.
And that's where the bottom line comes. If we can have 10 of them.
Yeah.
You can have 10 Chucks as good as Chuck. But it doesn't do any good because all they can do is write the liens.
We can't,
And
we
then
can't
if
collect
the
it.
State House doesn't give authority for the communities to do something, there's nothing we can do. And these places know that. But I want to thank, is it Shannon?
Shayna. Oh,
Oh, okay.
oh,
Okay, good.
thank you. He's pulled over. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, all right, okay.
Got it?
There's no audio.
there's no audio.
So if he wants, he can send you an email tonight and send that testimony over to us.
Yes.
And we'd be more than happy to listen.
Yeah, yeah. And
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Number 3.
Yep. Okay,
Okay.
Bastion.
Sebastian, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you.
How are you? Just state your name and address for the record.
Yes, my name is, Sebastian, and, I was, a citizen of, West Warwick. I've, recently moved out.
Okay. Can you still hear us?
Yes, I can still hear you. I was just making sure that, you guys were good before I started, like, saying stuff.
Yeah, we're good. You can, go ahead.
Okay, so the only thing I'm going to mention, because I know I have to make it brief, is like I said, I was a tenant on McNiff Street. To be specific, I paid my rent on time. Didn't didn't make any major noise in the neighborhood, whatnot. Wasn't, no one had to call the police on me. So I'd like to say I was a good tenant. The only thing that was wrong with me was I tried to get repairs done and no repairs ever got done. I did go out to Reclaim to see if they could help me do that, and was then faced with a end of tenancy notice, which is why I moved out of West Warwick and moved to a different city. Luckily, no evictions, so still, decent tenant, I would like to say. But what I'm getting at is you have landlords who don't want to fix the problem. I don't know, maybe he actually went and repaired the apartment like I guess he claimed he did out the paper. He never gave me a reason why he ended my tenancy. But that was a building problem which everyone needed to vacate. Meanwhile, I was the only person in that entire building that was forced to vacate. But you have people who are kicking people out who can actually afford rent in your city. And the only people who are left are either the people who are staying silent or the people who know that they've got no place to go except on the streets. So I'm just trying to say, like, we need to find an alternate plan for people not to just be like reduced to landlords like these, because you're going to have either people leave or people that are going to be kicked out, and they're going to go to encampments and other places or just live on the streets. But that's just how I look at it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sebastian.
Thank you.
Sebastian.
You
Any other comments? Thank you.
Thank you, everybody that came out.
Consideration of encampments along the bike path and safety concerns.
So I put this on the agenda. And again, before we get started, I know this is a very tough subject all around. But I've received calls from residents on East Main, business owners on East Main, business owners here in Arctic, residents along the bike path. And also, I've had some town employees reach out to me, whether it's from the Parks and Rec side or fire marshal's office or whatever, to discuss safety and the encampments that have seemed to grown over the past year on the bike path. On my aspect, the ones I'm getting calls on, from East Main to Bradford Hill. And it looks like there's 3 or 4, one behind Thunder Mist, one in between Bradford and Thunder Mist, and looks like 1 or 2 are coming up on East Main, one behind the new storage facility. The owner of the storage facility just
called me and made comments that they're using his brand new fence to lock up their bikes and suitcases and whatever else to protect, their belongings. Residents on East Main, they're encroaching their properties and they're having concerns with letting their kids come out in the yard and play or do whatever. Increase of needle finding on the bike path. Also, the size and the amount of stuff that they are having at these encampments. I know a lot of some of it's been addressed, but there was over 10 propane tanks. 2 of them were 100-pound tanks, and others were 20-pound tanks. And we're also finding them in the river now. That's DEM's jurisdiction. Also, with these encampments, it seems like there's a rise of individuals showing up at the gazebo on a daily basis. I know during COVID, we authorized some food being fed there on Sundays. It seems like it's almost every day now, which now draws from other communities also for this bus line, and they come here. Individuals that are standing out on Route 2 are now showing up here in West Warwick to obtain that food and whatever else. But mainly, there's the encampment behind Thunder Mist where there's actually a pit bull. Yes, he's registered. I don't know where he's registered to. Yes, he has his papers. Beware of dog sign is there, which is interesting. People are starting to get frustrated, and I want to find a way to be able, and there's many organizations, and I want to thank Chief Varone and Meg from HES, who I spoke to on the phone today for about 45 minutes. And there are many avenues to help this situation. But meanwhile, a lot of businesses here in Arctic don't want to come before us because they're afraid of retribution. They're shutting down their bathrooms. We're talking about businesses. We here earlier saying we want to bring in more businesses. No business wants to come if they're being harassed every day, whether it's for money or use their bathrooms. They have come here in the town hall, have showered or washed up in the men or ladies' room upstairs and left a total mess from time to time. The gazebo, we have concerts there every Wednesday night through the summer. We had fights there last week that had to be broken up before the concert. So people can't come enjoy our community without having situations like this arise, whether it's somebody stumbling. I mean, last year at the car show, I know it was last year, but at the car show, I was there to do a presentation for the trophies, and there was a man just sprawled on the stairs, totally obliviated. And, I made this comment before, and I don't want to, and I know we don't want to sit here and arrest people or whatever, but if any one of us would be doing that, we'd be arrested, right? And we want to work with the individuals, and I understand there's avenues to help them, and by no means, we do represent our constituents, our business owners, and it was brought to me numerous times. I can't walk into town hall or down the street without hearing about it. I don't know about anybody else, but I know the gazebo is a big concern. That was not resurrected to be what it's being used for today. And we need to find maybe another location I'm not saying let's stop feeding. Let's find another location, whether it's at Thunder Mist, or wherever, that we can get it out of the heart of the town here, where many businesses, and I know Mr. Ferrucci left, but he looks at it every day. He has to lock his bathrooms for his anybody, his staff, or any customer of his has to ask for a key for the bathroom because they were coming in and just destroying the place. And so, we're talking about, building and everything else, and how can we work with these individuals and to get this resolved? Businesses, we're talking about people moving out because they have bad apartments. Well, we don't need the businesses moving out because of harassment and safety issues and concerns. And residents who live in their own houses should not have to come out in their backyard and see a tent pitched right outside their property line. And, I did a lot of research this week, and unfortunately, that's not even town property. It's state property. It's federal property. That was donated for the bike path when the railroad system was given up. So what authority, and again, I'm not looking to arrest, I'm not looking, I just trying to make it aware that the residents, business owners, taxpayers are getting frustrated what's going on with the encampments and into middle of Arctic.
No, it is a tough issue, and I agree with you on everything you just said. But the old saying is, if you build it, they will come. And we keep creating all these services in Arctic for the homeless, the poor, and instead of just having one little one like we used to, it's grown, it's grown, it's grown, and it draws more people in. Word of mouth does get out there. Hey, you can go there and you can get this stuff. I'm not saying to cut it off, but I'm saying that's part of the reason why there's so many in this area. If you build it, they will come. For me, I think a lot of the blame, again, I'm gonna point the finger at the State House, because everything in the state's so expensive. I mean, $650 for a 3-bedroom apartment here in West Warwick with a basement full of sewage. I mean, there's one reason why they can get away with that is because all the other nicer apartments are getting higher rents, and so therefore they can raise their rents. When you have legislation that says the mandatory minimum wage is $13 an hour, that drives the cost up of everything, and everything goes up. There's a reason why it's called minimum wage. It's not supposed to be something you can raise your family on. It's supposed to be something for teenagers and people who need a little bit extra money, get a part-time job. It's supposed to be minimum wage, not a living wage. And the example I've been giving to people is during our budget season, we have a librarian who has a master's degree and makes $38,000 a year. You can have a high school kid drop out, go flip burgers at a local burger joint at $13 an hour, 40 hours a week, he makes $27,000 a year. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. So with the cost of everything going up in this state, you're driving more and more people to the streets. And then a lot of the people in the streets, as you said, they're obliterated. The state and their infinite wisdom minimizing drugs like there's no tomorrow. Later on our agenda, we have International Overdose Awareness Day. They're creating more overdoses with these policies. They're creating more homelessness with these policies. They're creating more of everything with these policies. And it just doesn't make sense to me. But that's up to them. What we can do here in West Warwick, I really don't know, Dave, because nobody wants to be the Grinch that takes all this stuff away. But at the same time, we have to do something because we're going to lose our businesses.
Well, and, again, we've had that situation. We've had overdoses at the gazebo, overdoses behind Thunder Mist. So, it's, again, we have weekly things right here in the middle of Arctic. We have car shows, we have concerts, we have many that we're talking about food truck nights and all that. God forbid if a child comes, Christmas time, God forbid a child comes up and grabs one of those needles, right? God only knows what could happen at that point. Whether it's a clean needle, whether it's a dirty needle, whether it's HIV, whatever it can be. But now skip that. We have our police.
There's still some fentanyl in it the kid grabs.
And again, we have our police, fire, and our municipal employees who are consistently going to these sites. And I want to make sure it's safe for our employees. I want to make sure it's safe for our constituents and our business owners. Now, I know some people are here to speak on it or whatever and have ideas. And I know Chief Roan shared the HES minutes with me from the previous meeting that they have, and they have a lot of ideas and a lot of things they're working on. So I want them to be able to compare and speak on what they work on. So people in the public know that people are not just turning a blind eye, but us in West Warwick itself has, I used the gazebo in between Park and Phoenix that was just built in Cranston. Even before that gazebo was rebuilt, that was a gazebo, and nobody in Cranston is hanging out over there. It's empty. It's never, you drive by any given day, there's people in the park or whatever, but you're not seeing the same problem. A bunch of shirtless people in shorts laying around, sleeping all day and whatever else. And unfortunately, I get those pictures. And I said to Meg earlier today, I get a picture of a person who looks like they're passed out on the sidewalk. I'm like, don't send me the picture, call 911 because they don't look too good. They're understandable. They need help. but we also need to figure out how to get the draw away from the gazebo. And again, I know during COVID, we authorized a feeding event on Sundays there or whatever, food event,
It was before COVID though.
right? It was right
Way
around,
before- Way
right?
before COVID.
But
Yeah, but I think there was more of it started happening because of that, especially there was one they used to do like the sandwich Sundays that we used to take place on
Help,
Sundays.
help the homeless did it
Yeah.
on Sundays.
Yeah,
yeah, that was the one we authorized. Now there's, I don't know her name. There's a nun that goes there and feeds. There's a few, huh? So there's a bunch of different associations now involved feeding at the gazebo.
But feeding
So-
doesn't help the problem though. I mean, back when I first got elected to the council in 2016, and this was like baptism under fire. What am I gonna do about the homeless issue on Pulaski Street? And I'm like, I don't know. You know, so we had a dozen people that were homeless. They were on private land, which allowed some time to get things accomplished. And I'm proud to say my wife was involved in that, along with another group, Help the Homeless, a church group. But the condition was these people wanted to get help. If they didn't want it, then they didn't belong there. And they worked with the property owner at that point, which this may be the town, if that's allowed. But in 9 months, some of these people, they all were, we knew what the issue was. So let's fix the issue. Easiest thing for me as a politician, councilman, to say, cross Pulaski Street and go over to Ward 3, BJ Messier's problem. That's not the way to do it though, and that's not right. You know, we knew what the issue was. You want the help? Yes, we do. Here's the commitments you need to make. They all got medical. A lot of them moved out of West Warwick. They found places to live with assistance. But the goal was to be a product, be beneficial to society. Some of them had jobs. Some of them, actually, one of them in particular, because I went down to the camp a few times and I was skeptical. And I put my name out there saying, I'll give you the help, but you know, don't make me look like a fool. And there were a lot of people in town that really said some very not so nice things to me about what I wanted to do, because this was the goal. And in 9 months, they were gone, which was the goal for the town, their goal to get out of here. And it was a win-win. It took a little bit, but it was done. It can be done. Giving food is great. People need to eat. And that's what people think. How many people contacted this group and said, and there was a lot of confidentiality involved. I was on that borderline out of that. But you go down, you help with food, which helps you day to day. You help with clothes. It's the middle of winter. All right, they had more clothes than I have. So down there. But the bottom line is they need to get the help. And if they don't want the help, then that's the problem. So I think going forward, the first thing is, and I know Chief Levine's here, and not to put it on him, but we have.
he's been waiting. He knew he was gonna
No,
get
but
called soon.
No, but I've contacted the chief. We have a mental health coordinator. And I've contacted him about an issue, and she had gone down there and assessed the situation. And I think that's where we need to start. And I'm not involved in any of that anymore. But to me, but I totally understand too, would I feel safe bringing my kids to the gazebo? Absolutely not. Just because of its perception. Who's there? What are they doing there? How are we going to be approached? What are we going to take away from that? And that's the center of town. So it just gives I would say it gives the town a bad rap. And I know you're pretty much saying that right now. But we need to find a way that, you know, if the people don't want help and they're drinking and they're on drugs, then they need to leave. I mean, if I was drinking out at the gazebo, right? Dave and I go and we go and have a couple beers out at the gazebo, you know, in public, what's going to happen to us? We're going to be arrested, right? So if they don't want the help, I'm sorry, but you know, you give the opportunity, make the offer. If they don't want it, they need to leave. Period.
I think it becomes a catch-22 because and Mark brought this up, we do have so many great services here in West Warwick. So what's the answer, to get rid of those services? I don't think that's.
No,
the
but
right
you
answer.
give
No,
the
no,
opportunity.
I-
And
no,
if
no,
they
no,
choose
it
not to
becomes
take
like
them, the offer's there. There's many services out there. They need the guidance. And working with some of the homeless, everybody says, oh, they're just drug addicts and they're alcoholics. It's not the case. You know, you lose your job, you have no income. You know, you can't pay your bills, so you can't live. You live out of your car until your car is probably not a Mercedes. So the car goes, the car's gonna go. So now you have nowhere to go. So you have no job, you have no home, you have no car, where do you go? You're homeless.
But it's also, it's,
So, but you have to want to help yourself.
but it's even deeper than that. It's about being a good neighbor. And me and Kathy have spoken this before. It's about being a good neighbor. You can be a good neighbor when you have a house, and you can be a good neighbor. Because for the homeless people that you hear about, I'm sure that it's a much smaller percentage that are actually causing a lot of these issues, whether it's the fighting, whether it's doing drugs in the gazebo or drinking or anything else that's going on over there. I think that there's probably a lot of them, like you said, that are on tough times. They end up in that situation.
And some people don't know where to go.
And
that's
and I
why,
think as a
that's what we need to do.
as a council, yes, it is an issue in our town right now, but as a council to think that we're not solving homelessness, right? So we're doing our part to help out the people that are in our community, not just the homeless there, but also the people that are affected by the homeless that are causing problems, whether it's strapping bikes to fences or causing issues on the bike path or causing issues in the woods. I think we'd be foolish to even pretend that we are going to have an issue that's going to completely solve this, but if we can help out the businesses and some of the
Well,
issues there.
Look at East Main. It's a brand new business came to town, put a lot of money
Yeah.
into that. People come to look at the storage facility and see a campsite right
course,
behind
yeah.
it. They feel their stuff is safe there. No.
No, I don't. disagree
Residents
with-
on East Main are seeing flames 6, 8 feet high. We've had a very wet summer so far, but if this was last year, could that be a forest fire where it
course.
takes out 5, 6 houses on East Main?
Early
You know,
June,
well,
June, they had the fires all over the place, so.
yeah, again, I know all over Canada and wherever else they have the wildfires, but if we were as drought as last year, that could be a disaster. All of the embankment of Bradford Soap could be on fire, and Bradford Soap and Thunder Mist, even though they're brick buildings, could catch on fire.
Right, so,
you know,
so right
it's-
now, we know the issues, we know the problem ahead of us. All right, so if we leave here and we just use the gazebo as an example, we drive by, and we see 6 people at the gazebo. They're laying down, they might be intoxicated, they could be just hanging out. What are we doing about it? Because that's, I think, where we're at, right? Right? That's where we're at.
Let heads come up and speak first, and whoever wants to come up
Yep.
on behalf.
You can come as a group,
Kathy likes to
whatever you want to do. Yeah.
Kathy, never a shortage of words.
I'm Heather Schultz. I am not a resident of West Warwick, but my family immigrated to West Warwick, need to watch me. I used to be with the Health Equity Zones. I will let the Health Equity Zones speak for themselves, but I still support all of the work that they've done. I just want to remind everybody that back during COVID, myself, Michelle Brophy, and one of the resident ambassadors came and we talked to you, and we knew and we acknowledged that we had like this large increase in encampments. We knew that this was probably going to happen because we see that the housing crisis was happening, and we're seeing more and more people across the state of Rhode Island that are experiencing homelessness. There's a couple of points that I want to make. I'm here as just Kathy, but I also am the director of the Governor's Overdose Task Force, but I'm here in my personal capacity. The International Overdose Awareness Day is one of the most important community events that happen in this town, because we're honoring people and families who have lost their lives to overdose. So most of the people that actually come are family members. And also what's even more interesting about it is when you're there and you watch the people who are experiencing homelessness, they come in and they cry and they write names too, because they're grieving. Councilman Lashadi. I also am the president of Help the Homeless, so I'm on their board. I'm the president of the board now. I wasn't back then. And Andrea's not here. She would probably be here. What we did and what he talked about is actually the solution. The solution is to find a place where people can actually be safe,
Can you say that again?
that they can be safe.
No,
right?
I'm
No, it's
teasing,
a
I'm teasing.
solution.
What about you being right?
Seriously.
Yeah.
Thank
It's
you.
a solution, but this is much bigger than it used to be.
Yeah.
It is not like it was back then, because I actually brought a lot of those folks to detox. They actually were sober by the time they end up getting housing. I just want you all to know that. And they did that on their own. But the people that are here in West Warwick in the encampments, they're residents of West Warwick. I went out there myself, actually a couple of weeks ago, because I still talk to my health people. And I have to see it for myself. That's the way I am. So it was a Saturday afternoon. I went out there.
I went to talk to somebody who clearly is probably using substances, and you know what he did? He cried to me, and he said, I used to do HVAC, and I feel hopeless. He does have a peer, he has a peer outreach worker who works with him, but he feels hopeless because if he goes to detox, he's probably going to end up entering back into homelessness after he's done, even if he goes to residential treatment. So the solution really is housing. I know that that takes 3 to 5 years to build, but we have a framework. Well, the HES has a framework that was created back when I was there. And the residents of West Warwick that are part of that, and as well as the town, is all in support of this. So that's the answer. But in the interim, what is the short-term goal? The short-term goal, I mean, I don't know exactly what the answer is, but yes, if there's issues at the gazebo and there's fighting happening and it's unsafe for kids and all of that stuff, I have kids, I get it. I'm not disagreeing with you, but I think that the solution is we need to find a place that's safe for the folks to go, that works, and to make sure that we get services out there. Not everybody is going to be ready for services as soon as they get there. It takes time to build trust.
No, and again,
You know?
I have a cousin who works for Butler, and her significant other is where he's a probation officer. And I had this conversation with them at a graduation party, and the first words out of her mouth is, where do you have a safe place for them to go if you want them out of the encampment? And I agree. And I know there's discussion of buildings going in stuff like that and having places for them to go. But like you just had people here, right before this discussion saying, they can't afford $1,100 a month or $1,200 a month to live, especially in unsafe conditions also. So is there enough affordable housing per se in the state of Rhode Island? And unfortunately, I think what the state is trying to do now with passing all these new laws and regulations is to help and try to get that affordable housing in there too. But it's a damn if you do, damn if you don't situation when it comes to that, right? So
I can tell
and
you
those,
that
and
the
those safe places, and those safe places also bring other problems too. So, right, I mean, I'm not saying I'm against those, but they more police
Well, they
activity.
come
more
with
fire
supportive services. The key is permanent supportive housing, which is a housing first model, which does not require people to be in sobriety, that it actually houses people first.
No, I
because
just mean,
yeah.
it requires more police services. I'm sure that some things will
Well,
happen, right?
It probably would reduce police because there is actually evidence that we presented here that recidivism is actually decreased, and so is the emergency room visits. If you use that housing first model, which we do have Thrive, who is here providing services, also using that housing first model. But to just speak to like the one thing that it takes time when people are experiencing homelessness, the reality is that they're feeling very hopeless. They may have trust in some of the services that are being provided to them, but it takes a lot of time. And when you're worried about if you're going to eat today, or maybe it's you're going to get your fix, because you know what, it just makes it a little bit easier to live in a tent because you know the rain is coming and you might get flooded out. That's the kind of things that they are experiencing right now. It does not make it right. It does not make it, I'm not trying to change any of your minds. Well, maybe a little, but what I'm trying to do is just make you to try to give you just an understanding of like, they are the residents of West Warwick, and how can we work together to clean up the gazebo, right? Like, what's the solution to that? Is there a place where people can go so that they are not sitting at the gazebo all day? Is there a drop-in center? I mean, one of the things, because I've been in West Warwick providing services for years or been around, there isn't a place for them to go. Is there a drop-in center in West Warwick?
Drop-in center to do what?
So that they can go. I
So
mean,
there-
Pawtucket,
so
every
I
other
just
city has
attended-
them.
So I attended a Kodak building in Park Avenue just last week. I'm not sure if that's the answer. I see what.
But they're not going to go to Cranston. That's the thing
No,
I'm
I-
trying
I
to tell you.
understand.
They
They
believe that
won't.
this is their
But I
town.
also
They won't
attended
leave.
A housing facility in Johnston, which was 3 duplexes, side by each, however you want to call it. And and that's what it was for rehab, so on and so forth. It's been vacant these are beautiful homes, brand new, built, been vacant over a year. Somebody's paying for it in the state, but it's not being utilized for what? And I'm saying, there are people on the streets of West Warwick that could probably utilize those.
But they
houses
won't
and
go,
shelters.
but I'm just telling you, because I did case management here, they're not going to leave West Warwick. They Coventry, West Warwick and Warwick.
If we had a
They're
place-
gonna stay.
Sure.
What I'm saying is, one of the things that and I'm gonna shut up after this and let other people talk. One of the things that I was doing when I was with the health equity zones, and one of the things that we heard over and over and over is having some type of place for people to go within town, because there is not great transportation in West Warwick. The people that are here, they live here, and they will have to follow some rules, obviously.
And but the problem, and I'm in favor of something like that, but I know, the problem's gonna be then somebody's gonna go, well, I don't want this here. Well, you're gonna need to have that, you're gonna have that, you're gonna have a gazebo, you're gonna have
And then
people in the
they'll-
woods. I mean, people, they gotta go, people have to go somewhere.
Yeah. They're
And you're
not,
right, they're not gonna go to
A place to
Cranston.
do- Like a place to do what though? Like when you say
A
drop.
place with mental health
To get-
services.
well, I don't even think, I think a drop-in center that has services. I think that the main services that they need to have is actually housing services. They need to have some case management. They have to have the opportunity to mental health, the opportunity for substance use, but that's up to them. But at the end of the day, the real answer to this problem is housing. So with that, I'm gonna let other people talk. I'm gonna shut up.
Thank you, Kathy.
Just state your name and address.
Hi, my name is Stacy Levin. My address is 567 Smithfield Road in North Providence. I am the program manager for Parent Support Network's Community Outreach Response Efforts Team. We are a harm reduction focused outreach team, and we service a lot of the folks, well, all of the folks that are in encampments all over the state. But because our office is right up the street, we're in West Warwick every single day. And we're at the gazebo all of the time because those are people that we work with. We regularly bring and dispose of large sharps containers so that people aren't finding needles on the bike path. We have participated in several cleanups along the bike path by the senior housing last year, twice or three times, and then at Maisie Quinn over the winter. I think it was winter. Yeah, I think it started snowing one of the days we were there. So we do our best to just really meet people where they are, honor their autonomy as adult human beings, and understand that, like Kathy said, the people who are unsheltered in West Warwick were at one point probably sheltered in West Warwick. They grew up here. And because of the severe lack of housing, I mean, we do have people who have had vouchers that have expired because they couldn't find units available to be rented, like for a full year or 18 months or however long it was. They're not choosing, most of the people, I'm gonna say majority of people that are unsheltered are not choosing to be unsheltered. There aren't places for people to park their cars. I mean, we do have a lot of people that reside in cars in Coventry because there is a particular business like mall that allows people to park in cars. But every time we've had somebody who was residing in a car in West Warwick, they were harassed and driven away by whatever parking lot they were parked in. It was a problem. We provide people that use substances with the ability to, or with the tools to do it as safely as possible, with things like naloxone and safer consumption tools like safer smoking kits and sterile syringes, because people who are unsheltered have very specific coping mechanisms to their situation. And we have found through looking at the Thrive shelter that is operating right now, that a good number of people who find stable housing, although it is a shelter and maybe one day it will end, while they're there, their use, a large number of their use goes, like for a large number of those community members, their use goes down. We have a particular person that I've been working with for a couple of years who was chronically homeless for over 18 years, had an incredible alcohol dependency, who hasn't had a drink since St. Patrick's Day, who's been in shelter. So a lot of that will probably go away, not all of it. And not everybody is going to want to seek shelter because there are so many barriers to living in a shelter situation that isn't operated in a housing first model. If you're telling people that they have to stop using substances, there are some people that are not going to want to go into housing. If you're telling people that they should go to Johnston, they're not going to want to go to housing because they live here. This is the community that they come from. This is where they are engaged in services. And it is really difficult for somebody to get from Johnston to West Warwick if they don't have a vehicle to continue to engage in those services. And it's really, really challenging to switch all of your providers from West Warwick to Johnston.
But we're getting people coming in on the bus line from other communities to West Warwick to get fed and whatever. So, and I've had reports, again, I'm not sitting in Arctic every day, but they get off the bus and they come here. Like I said, people who are in Warwick panhandling are now showing up here. And they're very disruptive in Warwick. And I know they're out in front of Route 2 near the old Dunkin' Donuts, that little island over there. But they're now showing up here because there's food there. He's never been here before. He's now showing up here. Other people come on the bus line, they come off the bus. I have personally witnessed drug dealing right there in Arctic on bicycles. And, I reported it. I said, this is gonna stop, and again, there's other enablers out there that I know you can't control, I can't control. But there are people trying to identify the dealing going on. And but people, when you say they're not gonna go to Johnston, it's funny because they come from Providence to here. And people behind you shaking their head because they see it every day. So it's kind of hard to say it's just West Warwick individuals.
Well, I will say that I think that there's a very small number of people that are coming from outside of the Kent County area to receive services here. And on that note, I'm not going to continue to take up all this time, but I do want to say that I think it speaks to the heart of West Warwick that people are seeking services if they're not from here, that they have a place that they can go to get meals, that there is a HES that will provide them with food, or that there is an organization like Help the Homeless that's so incredibly dedicated to this community, and that people feel safe living here, even if they are unsheltered. I think that says a lot about just how incredible this town is. I'm not from here. I'm from California. I moved here 2.5 years ago, and I've really committed to the work in this community because I love it here. I think that what happens in West Warwick is a really incredible thing for such a small town. And so I thank you for your time.
What you said about Kent County,
Mhm.
the Kent County area, as Coventry, West Warwick, Warwick.
Mhm.
Are we the hub? Are people coming from Coventry and Warwick to get services here in West Warwick because it's more central? Because I'm all for taking care of the issues and solutions here regarding the people who are in West Warwick. But if other people are coming here for services, that really doesn't allow anybody to get to the root of the problem that we're dealing with.
Right.
I don't want other people's
I
problems.
was just saying that if you've ever taken a bus from Providence to Warwick to CCRI to try to get here, it is a multi-hour adventure. That is a huge commitment to try to come to West Warwick, a place that a lot of people have never heard of outside of Kent County.
That's what I mean by Kent County,
right.
like Coventry, you can just come right through the bike path and come over, and same as
People
Warwick.
aren't that mobile though. You have to understand how
So are
difficult,
we
how
dealing with just
challenging it
West
is.
Warwick people?
I would say the vast majority of the people that
What's
we
the
serve,
majority? 75, 80?
90%, 95% of the people that we work with that are in West Warwick are West Warwick residents. And I do this work statewide. So I will tell you that the people that I work with in Coventry, they're from Coventry and they are unsheltered in Coventry. It's not that easy to get around. I understand that Rhode Island is a really small place, but it is super regionalized. And
The bike path from Coventry to West Warwick is a very easy path.
Cranston.
right, but what I'm
It's a
saying
very
is
easy
that
path that brings them right up into Arctic.
I'm sure it's really easy, but people aren't willing to go that far.
As somebody who walks the bike path on a regular basis, I can tell you there's a lot of homeless people that do come from Coventry into West Warwick, because I walk that. I actually stopped walking the West Warwick side because I get tired of walking with my grandkids with people walking up the bike path smoking crack. So I just stay on the Coventry side now, but I watch all the Coventry people cross over and go right down into West Warwick. So, they do. They might tell you they're from West Warwick, but maybe at one time they were from West Warwick. but they live in, the encampment's probably in Coventry now and they make the trip down.
I mean,
for
it might
the
be like
services.
right on the West Warwick Coventry line, but they're not, like, they weren't born and raised in Coventry. They weren't, I mean, yeah, I mean, they weren't born and raised in Coventry. And they might be like right across the line. And I have served encampments over there too. And this, I'm not trying to make this community worse. I'm trying to help the community members that I serve, keeping them alive and safe. And it is really, really challenging to do that when communities push people farther out and make them more isolated and just create so many additional barriers. So I know that there is like a housing project that the Healthy Neighborhoods Work Group and the HES is working on. And I really encourage you all to be really super open-minded about that, because I think that is the first step in decreasing by large amounts the issue of the unsheltered population in West Warwick. Thank you.
I know it's been a long conversation. Is there any other comment on?
Wendy Boudreau, 34 Patuxent Terrace. I have some paperwork that Chief Barone sent over via email. I wasn't sure.
We have it.
We have it. Yes, we have it.
It
So I
gets sent to
printed this
us.
for nothing.
Yeah.
I'll take a printed copy.
Yeah, so will I.
You did it, you might as well give them
Thank
to
you.
us. Yes. Thank you, though. Yeah, Mark.
If you don't have enough, I already read it all earlier, so. I did. I read it all earlier. The chief sent it. He said, I hope you have time to read this before the meeting. So I took the time.
Okay, first things first. The community meal that was at the gazebo has now moved to the HES now that we're open because COVID is pretty much ended. So there are no more meals being served at the gazebo by Help the Homeless. There is a meal over at Picard's on Wednesdays by a food truck. So that's that. I know there's a problem at the gazebo. I'm up there constantly trying to well, make people behave themselves, if you will. Does it happen? No, not often, but so I do know that there's a problem.
Do they know that there's a problem, Wendy, when you're over there? Do they know the consequences if they're doing something they shouldn't be doing?
So I let people know this all the time. You know, here's your warning, pretty much, like, stop doing drugs, stop drinking, stop passing out, stop fighting. It's tough. It's tough. And for all the reasons that Stacy and Kathy were talking about, yeah, we need housing here. Supportive housing, and that's housing with services, as everybody's talked about. The other thing is, oh my God, there's so much because my head was spinning back there listening to everyone. The problems with the encampment by Bradford Soap with the propane tanks and all that, we worked really hard to get that all cleaned up. I did hear about, things going in the river. I'm constantly chatting with the folks. They're using the dumpsters at the health center now. I brought all the propane tanks to DPW, dropped them off so that there was no issues with the fire. The fire that did happen on the bike path, we don't know that that was from the encampment. That started up top. I've tried to make cooking safe for folks. I call them bucket buddies, but they're porta potties more or less because people were just, relieving themselves in the woods, which is not, we know that that's not right. While we're waiting on either porta potties, camping toilets, whatever, like, I'm trying to put these small Band-Aids on while we're waiting for housing and more services here. I can tell you, Shower to Empower comes to Thunder Mist Health Center, and we were able to get probably 15 of our folks engaged with services, and now they're working with Thrive. They're working with Better Lives. They're working with the Thunder Miss Community Health Team. So they are all engaging, filling out their housing applications, getting everything done. The issue with that is that we have 10 folks that had rapid rehousing vouchers that weren't able to lease up anywhere because there are, still barriers to, there's applications and fees and credit checks and background checks and eviction checks, all this. And there's not a lot of landlords who are accepting these vouchers. So those all expired. So now we still have those folks in the hotel system, in the shelter system from the winter, plus like 50 more from Kent County. I will tell you, I'm thinking like 97% of the folks that you see visiting the gazebo and around town at the encampments, they are from here. I've been here 26 years and I used to live behind a liquor store. I've seen them all. Like, I've seen them all. I used to help them all way back then. And now I'm in a position where I can do a little bit more, but yeah, it's upwards of 97%. Nobody's traveling from Providence to come here and get hot dogs and beans. There's way too many services in Providence for them to waste 8 hours on a bus. Yeah, I want to say probably, and not all are engaged in services. Some folks aren't ready yet. There are some diehards that have been outside for 17 years that will probably still stay outside. But most of them are now engaging. Is it going anywhere yet? No, because there's still no housing. There's no supportive housing. There's no affordable housing. There's no shelter for them to go to. There's no drop-in center. So they're hanging out at the gazebo. A lot of folks now that are staying by Bradford Soap, they're trying to hang out back there instead of making themselves seen in public because they know what's going on and trying to just, like move away from that crowd and actually like help themselves. Geez, what else do I got for you? I don't know. Yeah, do you have any questions for me? I mean, like, we're working really hard to get these folks all engaged and like all set and like all lined up for if we do get housing here, the permanent supportive housing. We don't need to bring folks in from other cities and towns to fill up a 30-unit housing, a permanent supportive housing thing. We don't have the resources here.
So what's
I
the
mean-
plan if you don't, like you're waiting for this? So if it's a year, 2 years, 3 years and nothing happens, because I've had people call me and question, all right, you're in the woods, bike path, side of the road, whatever it may be. And there's a lot of questions that come up where, all right, and I know you've gone out to places, but it's, all right, you see a fire at night, at midnight. Is it gonna burn the woods down? In perception, are they, because you don't know.
You don't know.
Are-
no.
Is what you're saying is a lot of people are drinking, they're on drugs. What if that burns the woods down? I mean, what do you, and that's what people say. I mean, that's what people say. I mean, I see it
Listen, I
driving
get
by
it.
all the time.
I work at the community garden at Thunder Miss. My heart would absolutely be broken if those woods caught on fire.
But
I'm
what
not
would,
like, what's the solution? I don't know, fire extinguishers, but then again, I was told they can be
then-
used as weapons.
but then you're in,
But people need to be able to cook and they need to be able to heat water to be able to wash up. Like, you need fire. I'm
listen,
sorry.
I'm all,
Like,
I'm all for it.
I get
For
it.
living and healthy
I'll tell you
living.
what was kind of.
But there's concerns with everything.
no,
'Cause you
I'm
could
not
have
saying
somebody-
that there's
You
not.
could have
No, Wendy,
somebody
one of-
that's
one of my-
somewhere, hang on one second.
Go ahead.
You could have somebody that's minding their own business and they don't want to be found and they're trying to get work and they're trying to get help. That's not the people that we're talking, I think I'm talking about. I'm talking about the person.
It's everybody, really.
But, all right, hang on a minute. What's being seen and what's being noticed and perceived are the people who are the drugs, are the open alcohol. The people I would say if I were to go to a restaurant and I see that in the front, I'd be skeptical to go because of, and again, this is just, I think it's human nature. Is my car gonna be safe? You're looking at people, they don't have,
And again,
we know what we
we
need,
know
but
we
in the
need, but-
meantime, I think there needs to be something because this isn't
If we-
working.
But here's a scenario. It doesn't affect CVS in general because it ends up at CVS. But people are avoiding Arctic CVS from this side of town to go to the end of Wakefield Street or down towards Crompton because they're avoiding the Arctic CVS. Now,
I
that-
get it.
That
They're
became a
using the
staple here.
bathrooms, at the Arctic CVS. I think that's a lot of the reason why they're hanging at the gazebo all the time, because there's public bathrooms there. I just got reports from the Cumberland Farms and Arctic. They're shutting their bathrooms down at 9 o'clock because people are washing up, people are dyeing their hair in the bathroom. I heard about the incident here with, somebody dropping their drawers in the bathroom, like after washing up here. I get it,
Yeah.
but there are no porta potties. There are no restrooms open. I know what's gonna happen if you open those.
Yeah.
On a
Going back
daily
to
basis.
Fires, going back to drunken
Yeah.
disorderly and stuff like that.
I'm
A
not,
constituent put it to me just like this. As a taxpayer here in West Warwick, they pay almost $20,000 to $30,000 a year in taxes. And they're saying everybody encampments and abutting their properties have more rights than they do as taxpayers. That's exactly what was said. And I'm only relaying what was said to me.
That's true.
I might
If
not feel
if
that way,
Business owner
but-
walked out with a beer in his hand, he'd get locked up. A homeless person won't.
Hello, my name is Paula Hudson and I live at 565 Quaker Lane, Unit 87 here in West Warwick. I am a resident of West Warwick, but I'm also Executive Director of Better Lives, Rhode Island. We are a small but mighty social service agency that deals, we run a food pantry in Providence. We serve 4,000 people a month at our food pantry. We serve 150 homeless people that we provide case management to on a monthly basis. My social workers come out here to engage with the people in West Warwick, mainly because I live in West Warwick and I care about this place. I wasn't born in West Warwick. I actually moved to West Warwick. So does that make me not a West Warwick resident?
No, not at all.
Good. So these people are the same. They're human beings, and please indulge me
I-
for 1
I
second.
agree.
Good. Then would you treat me like that? Would you come and tell me as a resident of West Warwick that I am not allowed to come into a public building?
Of
course not.
Actually, the situation.
These
let me just
people
clarify.
are our community. They're our neighbors. And you opened this meeting with a prayer and a pledge of allegiance that said all people are created equal. Well, apparently homeless people are not created equal.
I think you're taking that
So
wrong.
the problem becomes all of our problem, and we need to work together to find a solution. Don't blame the state. Don't blame other towns. This is our town. This is our problem. This is our responsibility to find a solution. Don't point fingers. That's what you've been doing all night. This constituent, that constituent.
So is everybody engaging? Like when you come out to engage, are, again, percentages, like are 90% of the engaging?
No, I
50%
wouldn't say
engaging?
90%. There's a trust issue. And don't forget, there's a serious mental health issue built into this too. These people have been traumatized. When you get to know them, their history, their stories
So
are
while
horrifying.
So while waiting for, 'cause I know like the end result and the end goal is the housing. But if we're not there yet, or not close to it, we still have a situation.
Yes, we do.
So, right, and I
So
agree with you with that,
Let's
yeah.
work on
So-
it. Let's work
Okay,
on
And
it.
that's why I'm bringing this to the forefront. This isn't something that I'm trying not to like, and I
But
started
ins-
off saying, I'm not looking to get people arrested, thrown out of here.
No, but
whatever.
what are you
I'm
looking
trying to
for?
see how to coexist
You're
and making our
looking
town
to get
safe.
rid of these people. That's the message I've been hearing
Oh,
all
you-
evening.
You've got the wrong message. because-
Okay, then
Let
prove
me
me
just
wrong.
clarify something. The individual, I got the same complaint that everybody else did about the person who came in and took a bath or whatever they did upstairs. And I said, unfortunately, it's a public bathroom and they have the right to use it.
Yes.
That's exactly what I
So you
said.
know what you could do? You could provide porta potties. You could provide trash receptacles. I get my trash picked up. You know,
But you
I
you
have
pay-
a bathroom.
You
pay
do supply it
taxes.
on the sidewalks. Our Arctic garbage cans are double filled. The day they're empty, they're
I'm
filled
not
back up.
talking about, I'm
They dump
talking
them
about
twice a
bringing it
week.
where the people are.
That's where they are, the
You are
gazebo.
not going to get rid of these people as much as you may want to.
I understand.
So we need to work with them and provide them with permanent, with supportive, we can provide supportive,
And I thank all of you for the hard work that you do to help these individuals.
so you help us, please. Yeah. Oh, I'm
You
sorry.
guys are amazing. No, you're so upset and everyone's so passionate. Michelle Brophy, not a resident of West Warwick, been working on ending homelessness and housing in Rhode Island for 27 years. Presented to you guys with Kathy a while ago. I just want to say, you want to talk about solutions, and I think we need to actually get to solutions. I had sent Chief Barone this handout. I work for the state, so we don't have color, but you have it. And there's actually some nice things that I think we can do between the HES, the work you're all doing. I mean, I work with communities across Rhode Island, and I have to say, I had a smile on my face knowing tonight I was coming to West Warwick, because other communities are bulldozing tents. They're throwing people out. They're traumatizing people. The police are arresting people. It doesn't work in Rhode Island, and it doesn't work across the country. The toolkit was created. They studied it. It's not the way to do things. But I do think just on this 1-2-pager that we have, there are some things we can do. And we have like the town council who have done it before. The difference between now and 2016 is we have no housing. I mean, Rhode Island has moved to #1 in the country for the least amount of affordable housing units created. That's why we are where we are. So in 2016, if we had some subsidies and services, we could move people on. Now it's sad to say, we have subsidies, we have service dollars, and we have absolutely no units.
So there's nowhere to
So
go.
we need to work on this. So, and we are, so we have a pipeline of people that the heads brought together to create the long-term solution. We're looking for a short-term solution to address this, but I think if we actually just employed some of the strategies that are being used across the country, like this is the one town in Rhode Island who actually has like the trifecta, as I like to call it, the council, the town manager, and actually you have 4. You have the police chief and you have the fire chief all on board. I don't go anywhere else and do that. There might be a, group of community police officers in one community that are nice to people experiencing homelessness, and the rest of them are arresting them. So I just think there's a huge opportunity here to do something good. We can create a pipeline. We can create the housing that's needed so people don't fall into homelessness. We can make sure that it's good housing, so we don't have slumlords, treating people like we heard about earlier. And I think it can be a win-win for everyone. So I just wanted to say that, and I appreciate your passion, and I thank you all for
Yes, and I'm
everything. you
sorry.
do.
And
Oh,
again,
don't be
Passion's
sorry.
not a bad
No,
thing.
No
it's-
need to be
I
sorry.
Not a bad thing
understand
at
you're
all.
passionate, and I'm passionate too. Like I said, I reached out to a psychiatrist and a probation officer just to get their feel too. I went to different places and looked at the houses in Johnston, what their mission is. And I went to Kodak last week and looked at what happened there, because they're talking about expanding or a different type of, like a compassion center in Coventry.
Yeah.
They're talking about many different things,
Yeah.
but I'm trying to get a grasp on what to do. But we also have a responsibility as council people to represent our constituents who are complaining to us. And that's why I brought it to the forefront for the council to get this conversation. I can guarantee 80% of the people in this crowd that are not town officials or police chief, fire chief, had no idea what you guys do on a daily basis, okay?
But things still need to be safe for everybody.
Correct.
And that's kind of, and I'm sure we're all in agreement, but and so we are responsible to the tax, well, to everybody, everybody's a person, so.
So I wanted to just come up, my name is Susan Jacobson. I work at Thunder Mist. I'm the Senior Director for Health Equity Initiatives at Thunder Mist. And Paula is one of our colleagues in the community, as others are. And Thunder Mist is a member of the Healthy Neighborhoods Work Group, as is Chief Barone. And I have to still keep calling you Chief, not, I'm sorry, Mark. As well as our police chief and others. And I just want to say, we're aware, of course, that there are people at the moment, that there is an encampment behind Thunder Mist. Our community health team is out there every single day connecting with folks. We're providing services for folks who are our patients, as well as folks who are not our primary care patients, but we're providing healthcare services, community health services. And we're working really hard with the HES team, mainly Wendy and Meg Donnelly, who I know Councilman Goslin that you spoke with today, to make sure that basic needs are met, make sure there's basic sanitation, to work on safety. It's really important to Thunder Mist that it's safe on, around our building, for our patients, for our staff, and for anyone who may be living behind our building. And obviously, we want to work towards solutions, and just as you all do. But what we know is that in other communities, and Michelle and others spoke to this, in other communities, what is happening are people's belongings and people's homes are being bulldozed. And we know that that is actually counterproductive to getting people into housing and into a permanent home, because they lose their ID, they lose all their belongings, they lose those pictures of their kids, they lose, maybe the money that they had in their tent, et cetera, and they have to start all over. It is true that many people who are unhoused and living outside have jobs and have families and are from West Warwick. And so the more that we can employ the strategies y'all did in 2016, and work towards that step by step to helping folks move into their own home, that's really the solution. And I've been honored to be a part of working with you all in this town. I agree. There's a lot of love for West Warwick here because it's special the way that this community cares for all of the neighbors in this community. And continuing to work in that path is the solution. And so, Councilman Messier has been a partner in this for many, many years. And the HES has been working on a plan with Women's Development Corporation and others, and with working with town administration to work towards permanent supportive housing and to work towards somewhere for folks to go, hopefully by this winter. And we're going to need all of your support in order to do that. And I just want to say on behalf of Thunder Mist, we're really grateful to everyone, all of our partners, to all of you, to work together towards a solution to support folks. So, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How you doing? Dennis Quintel. I live at 153 The Grist. I usually watch you guys on Zoom, so this is the first time I've actually ever had to come down here. I'm a very verbal individual. I'm a disabled vet. And what I've noticed about the housing shortage is that we have an influx of immigrants coming into our state because we are in sanctuary state. So all of those houses that we could be using as Rhode Island is are being given to illegal immigrants coming in, housing them instead of us. I watched about a month ago when you had the teacher come in here, the teacher's aide, I can't remember what her name was, but she was talking about Spanish-speaking teachers. Yo habla español, muy bien. See, I have no problem with Spanish people coming into this country legally. But when they're just mass people into this country, I had a nice family living right next door to me. They moved out. Now I have 12 people families in my house next door. Well, not my house, but the house next door to me. And it's ridiculous. The kids are running out into the street, the whole 9 yards. But that's not even my biggest contention. I was also watching earlier about the housing thing, about the houses falling apart, tenants and what for. I was one of them. I was living right in Arctic. Fridge was getting ready to fall through the center of the floor. Rats everywhere. I live outside of West Warwick now, right on the edge. I like to think of myself as in sight but invisible, because everyone drives by my house, but no one ever know I live there. I have rats constantly because of the trash can behind my house. I have constantly liquor bottles up and down the side of my street. It's ridiculous. I know a lot of you guys, you're very, Ms. Messier, you're great with the people. Yeah, you're in touch with them, what for? But as far as me being a Republican, I don't even consider myself a Republican anymore. I consider myself more of an American that's trying to stand up for American rights. And this is getting ridiculous, just allowing people into this house, giving us a housing crisis. That I just heard they're passing legislation in Situate, I'm not Situate, to put housing on other people's property so that they can house these people. But I'm just saying, it's coming here. And I don't, as a taxpayer, I don't want a house put on my land. I enjoy my yard. I might not mow the grass every day, but I enjoy sitting in my yard, relaxing. And I don't need to have drunks walking up and down the street. I don't need to have immigrants throwing crap on the side of my house. I had this group of kids, young little Spanish kids, have nothing wrong with that. But they were coming by my house, destroying concrete pieces of my property. And I walk outside and I'm like, hey, what are you doing? Oh, I thought that this was a garage. No. Even though you thought it was a garage, it's still not your property to do that to.
Well, again, first of all, I guess you were watching this and then you must have.
Oh, you have no
fumed
idea.
and got in your car.
I live right down the street. I live right down the street. And
Obviously, I got that.
I keep on telling myself, I got to come to these things.
Again, we want to stay on base with homeless, and I know you're saying it's because of the sanctuary state. But again, I don't know the solution to that either.
But that's not yours scenario, because you guys are doing what you're putting in here for.
Yeah.
It's the bigger people up in the Senate and what for that are the problem. We have people that are just taking the job for money.
Yep.
It's like the government wasn't put together for them to sit there and pocket large amounts of money. I was laughing hearing the amount that these people are living on, $175,000 a year. Wouldn't I love to have $175,000 a year? I was working in Acura and I was making 50. So I mean, you guys are doing your job. I love you. I've been watching this thing go on online now, and you guys are bringing up the greatest points out there. I just think that we as citizens of West Warwick need to stand up and start speaking to the louder people who really don't care about us, because they're flying on jets going to and from DC to line their own pockets, going to and from other countries when they don't even belong to, because they need to be staying here and taking care of this state. These are just my.
All right, thank you for your comments. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Anybody else want to speak on behalf of any organization or the situation?
So back a couple of years ago, in the middle of COVID, Help the Homeless actually put a bunch of people with the support of the town. Chief Barone, you've always been my hero, with the support of our town and the partnership that we created through the Healthy Neighborhoods Work Group that Susan actually talked about a little bit. And Help the Homeless put a group of people, about 10 people at the time, the encampments weren't as big back then, into some of the hotel projects. Thrive has now taken that on. And I just want to report that we do have a couple of people who are now in permanent supportive housing here in West Warwick. Their alcohol use has reduced since then. That one of them is actually a veteran, and he was one of the reasons that I started to get back into homelessness and bother you all. And then another person who was when the encampment started to get a little bit bigger, and I worked at the HES, I was about to hold an event, and he was sitting on a park bench. He's housed here in West Warwick. He has keys in his hands, he has the subsidy, and he also has services. So that's what Michelle, what Susan, and what we all are actually saying. That is the long-term goal. But in the short term, I think we all want the same thing, and we want solutions. So I think if we put all our heads together, Michelle was sitting next to me and she said, maybe we need to have a small conversation. I might be in it and I might not. You never know, I might show up.
I think you
But-
always end up back in it.
I only come when there's a problem. But I think that would probably be we all want the same thing. We want solutions. I hear you about the gazebo.
But
It's important.
People
you
want
know?
instant solutions, and there's no instant solutions for this issue.
No.
I think as we move along in this process, we all have to be aware that from your end, obviously you're concerned about the homeless and the people that are out there, but as council members, we also have to be concerned
I
about the
know.
constituents. And there's not a perfect
And it
balance.
has to be,
And
right.
it's about being good neighbors in that process. And I know that you have a lot of conversations with those that are homeless out there, and they have to, it's not easy for them to be aware of what's going on, but when you are out in the gazebo, that is the big reason why we're here tonight, is the gazebo, because that's where everybody is. But they're out there all in the area.
So-
But it's about being conscious on both ends and realizing that, yes, when people live there and they have people partying or
Yeah,
drinking
whatever.
or doing whatever in their backyard, they're gonna be upset about it. And I understand that, but I
I
understand where you're coming
totally-
from, and you don't want to ignore those people as well. So I don't think that
I think there is a balance that we can find, and
there
I
is.
think that is by
But
working
it's not, but
together.
it's not instant, and
Yeah.
this council meeting didn't solve homelessness. It's not gonna happen.
No, but West Warwick is going to end homelessness in West Warwick.
Well, I would love to hear that. I would love that to happen.
I would, Cindy Ferry, 26 Lenox Avenue, West Warwick, but I was suggested I come here tonight as a business owner on Main Street. I own the Ritz on Main. And I personally don't have trouble with the homeless in the gazebo with my hair salon. But my customers are definitely aggravated, and most of them are West Warwick residents. And when you tell someone that you own a business in West Warwick, they go, oh, so it is a stigma. But yet we don't want to shun these people. But like you said, you have to do what's right for your constituents and what's right for them, because they used to be our constituents. So I just wish you guys the best.
Thank you.
I try not to differentiate between the voting constituents and the non-voting constituents. I know that some people look at it that way, like, oh, well, they're homeless, they don't count, they don't vote for you, but that's not the way that it should be looked at. I think you have to kind of find a balance.
What I've noticed is they're giving illegals licenses now that say not for federal use. I've given my license several times now as I'm voting, and they still take that license as federal use in voting. So I don't know how you.
That's nothing to do with homeless, so I won't even.
Well,
comment.
that's something that I'm bringing my attention to my council and
Yeah.
voicing my
You
opinion.
can bring that up there in public comment. Thank you.
I just want to say, though we may not agree on some of the finer issues with this topic, I want to thank you all for your passion and what you do. Because they need advocates, because there are people out there who will just bulldoze them over. I do want them out of West Warwick, but not in the mean sense. I want them out there as productive citizens of society. And that's the point I was trying to make earlier. I wasn't pointing fingers at the state per se, but the state makes it so we have more homeless. You know, the 2020 census, we actually lost 55,000 people. They fudged the numbers to keep the second congressional seat, and it came out later on. That all made the news, so I'm not saying anything out of line here. And then according to the census, we've actually continued to lose residents, official residents, but yet we have a housing crisis. And I brought this up about 6 months ago at a council meeting. So I blame the state with their policies and things along that line is what I'm saying. They're creating more and more drug users by taking away the stigma of of drugs. You know, when you can have 9.9 grams of fentanyl or heroin or crack or cocaine, and it's a misdemeanor, that's a problem. That's a huge problem. When you tell people smoke weed because it's no worse than alcohol, that's a huge problem. Because it's not a true statement. And that's what I'm saying, is they're creating more and more of situations like this. And then on top of that, they're funding a lot of these programs to help them, your organizations, which comes from tax dollars. And that's why when you're asking for us to say, put up porta johns, our taxpayers, or majority of us, I know my taxes this year went up, I think it was $200. We have that. Our sewage bills all just went up. Our gas prices are going up just like everybody else's. Our food prices are going up just like everybody else's. Our electric prices, our gas prices, everything's going up just like everybody else's. So it's hard for me to sit here and say, we need to take more of your money and give it to people who are in this situation. I agree, we got to find that balance someplace. I agree, we have to make them productive. I really don't know how to do it with the balance there. I'm not trying to separate the voting from the non-voting.
I didn't say you were, yeah,
I know you didn't say that.
Yeah.
I'm just pointing out. I'm trying to separate, the taxpayer with the person who needs help, and how do we combine those two and make it work and productive? And I don't know how it can happen. I don't think a drop house or whatever it's called is an answer. I think that's just another situation where, unless it has the good services, but I know our library, they were up here during budget season saying everything they do at the library in those situations. They do a lot of good work over there. But yet our population of homelessness is growing, not shrinking, even with all these good services we have. So we're doing something wrong. Right, and that, again, that 1650 for a sewage ridding apartment, you know, that's part of the problem. But again, the more the state makes it more expensive the state makes it to live here, the harder it's gonna be to decrease this population, so.
All right, let's move. I know we're gonna be on this, we could
But
be on
again,
this
thank
all
you.
night.
All day.
But again, like Mark said, I thank you for your hard work. I know near and dear, I know Chief Ferone is always working with you guys. Colonel Levine also, every time I reach out to either one, you know, I do get information, and Chief, you sent me plenty over the past 2 nights. So again, thank you. And again, I just wanted to bring it to the forefront. And I want to let my constituents know that there are organizations out there trying to help, and we are working on the situations. Thank you. So we did 04, we're on 05.
Yep, discussion action, consideration of recognition monument at Town Hall, on Town Hall Island.
All right, I put this on the agenda real quick. I know Columbus Square has really improved. The flags are finally up. Everything looks beautiful over there.
Trees are going so you can see
The
it.
trees, you know, that whole square, and after everything was cleaned up and whatever, you know, a lot of you didn't even know there was a monument there that had 34 people that have been recognized. So earlier in the week, I reached out to, since it was erected March 17th, 1990, and it was under Mayor LeVaque's administration. So I had a little conversation with him to discuss how it was managed and how people's names were decided. And ironically, he said, believe it or not, Dave, it was done by the West Warwick Historic Society, Patuxent Historic Society. So, and I said, so they met, they would have these meetings and discuss and put people on there. I don't know, you know, I don't know if anybody's still on there from 1990. I know a couple of people that have maybe passed, but there might be a couple of people.
Yeah.
So do we want to reach out to the West Warwick Historic Society and have a discussion with them? I know we have Jerry Tellier and group that we can reach out to, but I just want to re-resurrect that. But, you know, they did it with people who passed. I'm not looking for that. I'm looking for past and living, you know.
Looking for the longest serving councilman? Is that what you're-
Nope, not at all. I don't want my name on it. But there are people out there that do a lot of work in this community or have done a lot of work in this community. And that's what's on there is, you know, there's James P. Murphy on there. There's Patrick Quinn. There's Governor Quinn. Was it Governor Quinn?
Robert Emmett Quinn.
Okay, so that individual's on there. There's, you know, you go down there, there's 34 names on there. Again, I'm looking at people that should be recognized in the community. No, the existing ones, just re-resurrect with the pan. You got so much room on
Space
there.
on it.
There's
Adding to the existing
6
monument.
sides to it, and
And the spots are already
I'm
there,
not,
right?
well, again,
On the spots already? I think
no,
the
you gotta
spots-
buy the little plaque.
I know, but there's a spot for the little
Yeah.
plaque, right? On
Yeah,
each
there's
individual,
34 of them on there now.
Yeah.
We'd have to look at, you know, do we want the Historic Society to continue it? Do we want the council? Do we have like, somebody else? I don't know, but I just like to get it resurrected. It's a monument out, and again, I don't want it to be people who passed. To me, I hate I mean, don't get me wrong. You want to recognize that, but I like them to see that they were recognized while alive also. You know, so I'm not just looking for past, I'm looking for present too. You know what I mean? So again, We got a beautiful monument there that has not been occupied since, looks like 1990-ish, between 90 and 95, based upon the names that are on there. So 30 years has gone by, you know.
My personal opinion is incorporate the two. Historical Society does the work, presents, and the council makes the final decision.
With the criteria.
Somebody has to set what the criteria
Yeah,
are.
it has to be a criteria of who's deserving actually go on that line. So it doesn't become.
Who did you say determined it back then?
Yeah.
The Historic Society.
They were the
I
ones that
can
decided.
reach out to them.
That's all I have for discussion on that.
And they might even have a criteria still in their file someplace, so.
And again, if it's, if somebody's still on there from 1990,
I bet there are people.
you know, again, I don't know, everybody was on there. There is a couple of people in their late 80s, early 90s on that board.
I'm sure they're.
So, I mean, we can, if you want, we can work together on that maybe. That's all I have on that. Just, but again, that was from, I called Mayor Mike. Mayor Mike called me and said, gave me the history behind it, and it took literally an hour to get all the information on it. And trust me, he was happy to hear that we're even talking about bringing it back.
What, you shot
because-
me a text today.
We can work together on that. But just so the people know, this is a town monument, it's a town-wide thing. I firmly believe that the entire council should be involved in some way.
Yep.
So.
And again,
it's the right thing to do.
I just, like I said, it's a beautiful monument sitting there. It was painted, it was cleaned up, it was just sitting there though, with no other, there's plenty of room for recognition on it. That's all I have on that. Thank you.
Consideration and request for the Tuxet River Authority for annual contribution of $7,000.
Move approval of the contribution.
Second.
Moving second, any discussion?
It's a requirement.
Yep.
So, and they do a lot, so.
Hearing none?
Yes.
Aye.
Aye, yes.
So Kathy Schultz mentioned this earlier this evening. For several years now, we've done the proclamation acknowledging International Overdose Awareness Day on August 31st. So this is just a timely manner to repeat that again for this coming August with no changes other than the date on the proclamation.
I'm for it. I was actually involved with that with St. Teresa's Church 4 or 5 years ago, and not knowing what to expect. It was a very, very powerful night where you saw a lot of people come out who lost people to overdose, and it's a very moving ceremony.
Any other
So
comment?
yes, I make the motion. I'm in favor.
Second.
Motion and seconds. Any other comment? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Did everybody get a copy of that letter?
Yes.
Yes.
So
Joe Ward, right?
yeah, so I drove by that today. I wasn't here, unfortunately, when you guys had passed the ordinance for that. So, but I drove by today, and this is what it looks like. So, and I'm gonna talk with my hands. So if you're on the street, Gleason Avenue is on your left. We have the constituent's house, number 20, is right here. There are signs up that say no parking. And it says no parking in front of her home. And then there's the home, the driveway, a fence, 3 sections of fence, which says no parking and has arrows going this way. So there's no end to the arrow. So then you can move over to, I'm gonna run out of room, but you move over from the fence to the other neighbor's house, which has 2 drives, 2 openings for driveways. In the middle of those drives, there's a telephone pole. That telephone pole has a no parking sign on the pole, which goes this way and that way. After that second drive to the left, there is the business complex from those who sent the letters. And then there's the stop sign onto Queeset Avenue. So me looking at that and listening to what was done, I think there is one too many no parking signs, which is not in front of number 20. There's that far one to the left on that telephone pole, which really means no parking this way and that way, all the way out to Queeset. So personally, I don't know if I'm saying this right. Personally, I don't know what was passed, but I think that sign that's not on number 20 needs to be removed.
I don't think we actually discussed anything other than in front of 20.
Because
Yeah.
I thought that, and I'm trying to picture what you're saying. I thought the problem that I think you just raised had been corrected. The sign is supposed to go, if I'm looking at the houses, beginning of the street and stopping before it gets to Coeset. Initially, there was a sign put on the pole at Coeset. That sign was supposed to have been taken down.
Not as of yesterday.
I'll check with the, I'll check with,
That
DPW.
doesn't give you much room for parking though, just so that you know, if that sign's on the pole,
Yeah.
there's two drives here which you can't park in front of.
I'll,
And then there's the number 20 house. So the only place really to park is kind of, I would say one spot, just before the stop sign.
I'll go over with DPW because that
Glenn's
issue.
right behind you, yeah.
We put it from 20 Meadow, I mean, it was supposed to go from 20 to Meadow in between.
Yeah, but I think it went down, I think it went the other way too.
Yeah, if you go from Coeset, you have all right, I'm on, I have to do it this way, I'm sorry. I'm on Coeset, you turn to the left, there's the building unit, their parking lot entrance. Right, just a small space, but it could be one parking space. And then the driveway, and then the pole with the no parking sign. And then the other driveway, which is not number 20. And then you have number 20. It's not gonna do much, but that should be, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think based on, based on what you just did, I
Which
think we
side?
said,
When it was this
I
way
think
or
was
when it was
that,
this
when it was
I was
this
gonna take a
way.
picture,
Yeah.
but you know what? I figured I could just say it, you know.
I think,
Well,
I think
let's
what we
just let
said
Al
was,
work with
yeah.
Glenn and
Yeah.
and then we can look at it. And maybe you can meet
Yeah.
him out there.
Yeah.
Maybe you can meet him out there also. Because it is your ward, like I said.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Sorry, I gotta give you some assignment.
Upcoming appointments, Sewer Use Board of Review, appointment to fill a vacancy as an alternate member for a 3-year term. Sewer Use Board of Review, appointment to fill a vacancy as a regular member for a 3-year term. West Warwick Housing Authority, appointment or reappointment for 5-year term expiring November 2027. Patuxent River Authority, appointment or reappointment for 3-year term expiring June 2026. Planning Board, appointment or reappointment for 5-year term expiring July 2028. And Library Board of Trustees, appointment to fill a vacancy for 3-year term expiring February 2024. Public forum.
All of these positions are still open as of next meeting, correct?
even the Patuxent Authority, River Authority, didn't we do that tonight?
We didn't.
Oh, we
appoint.
didn't do it. That's right, we
We didn't
didn't.
appoint.
That's right. You're right. Sorry.
I just want to throw out there before we get into public forum. I spoke to Honorable John Bernero Sunday. He is going to he's filling in temporarily until September-ish for our judge. But he said he would like to see us appoint somebody so they can have time to, and it's not, that's why I'm bringing it up now, that do we want to advertise that position? And secondly, he'd like to see somebody appointed so they can take over and he can oversee, you know, in September, October, because he will be going back to Florida at probably the mid-October, end of October, so.
But that point, that wouldn't be. These appointments, would it?
No.
No.
It's a little- no, not the same. These aren't important, but we're.
Yeah, that's.
Right. Bar is important.
So just want to point out, and I know Mark's been asking how we want to do it, so if you could just answer him. All right?
I think it should be advertised first.
Yeah, I think so. Too. I think we should advertise it. So Paul, Sarah, Paul has been over there all night, and so Sarah, if you don't mind just advertising it.
What method of advertising? Are we doing it like a vacancy, like a job, or are we doing it?
I would say we do it on our website into the bar association. It's, my question originally was post it with the current charter requirements first.
And I know we do.
And then
have-
if you aren't satisfied, then we can talk about charter amendments.
And I know we have one person who did show a letter of interest. I forgot to put it in my report, but I did meet with that individual last week because they are a constituent of mine. Sat down for an hour just to talk. So, and again, I told that individual, I'm not sure, the council's gonna probably advertise it. So we'll go from there also, just to give you a heads up. You know, yeah, and again, I mean, we've had others that have always wanted to do it, and sometimes unfortunately they're no longer here either. So, you know, again, just I would advertise it and go from there and see what interest we have. Thank you. Public comment. Bless you.
Bless you.
Let's see, the school year is over. We'll start again in August. And hopefully the podium will be in by the end of September. Oh, by the way, I did Alan Palazzo, 5 Robin Lane, West Warwick.
You know me, I ask about the podium all the time.
I keep dropping my cards. That's the reason I'm asking.
That's a prototype.
A lot of, yeah, I know, David. Yeah, that's what I said. However, comma, couple of items. Anybody tell me where the Ohio Mutual Insurance Company is in this building? How about John J. Clark Insurance? Because I see that wonderful sign out there. However, I also see the steps falling down, and I know we have a mason on the DPW payroll. They fixed the side going down the right side last year or the year before when I raised it. The one on the left side, somebody's going to get hurt. So why don't we worry about doing that? Second issue regarding the sign, is that even legal? No one's going to comment on that? I
I'll be
believe,
honest with you. Hold on one second. I don't know the answer you or not to answer you, because the last time I tried to answer something, you told me to shut up. So.
no, I didn't tell you to shut up.
In a kind way. you
I
told me
walked
you don't want-
away.
You said you don't want to hear from me. So I don't know the answer or not to answer. You can't have it both ways. here.
It's up to you.
Well, can I ask the question then? Because I'm wondering if the sign is legal. I don't know if there's, I didn't know anything about the sign, until I got phone calls. I don't know if it is legal to have private companies' names on town property. So I mean, I don't know if we can discuss this now, if it has to go on the next agenda. Yeah. So Sarah, can we put that in the next agenda, please? Because I really would like to know like how the sign got there, why there are private businesses on it. Was it open up to every other business in this town? Because that's, I got a call from
Was
a
it
couple
adopt a
businesses.
spot?
Yeah, but even still, if it's adopted.
Is it legal?
All the adopt a spots.
It's town
in West
hall, though.
Warwick.
No, there's a difference.
All the adopt a spots in West Warwick.
Mr. Goslin, there's a difference. It's an animated sign. Any sign that uses movements or change of lighting to depict action or create a special effect and or scene. Electronic message display devices are considered animated signs unless the message is fixed and does not flash, move, or change message text on an intermittent basis. So you may want to, explore all the options because there are a lot of them here. And I'll be ready for you, whatever answer you want to come back with.
Is that section 5 of appendix A of zoning?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was looking up earlier today also.
Oh, all right. There's also the one about, I'll discuss it once we come back in. However, I do have plenty of other items that I've been waiting patiently to cover. Sewer plant order, you covered that. That's pretty good. However, could someone please tell me where we stand with regard to the taxes, tax freeze rebate for seniors? I remember when I brought this up a long time ago, I've aged a year since then. And I've been told we couldn't get it in 23, we'll get in 24. Is the legislation in? Not that I'm aware of.
I haven't. I started with that and budget time came. We talked about, it didn't get on for this.
Oh, I know, that's what I'm saying
Right.
for,
I haven't followed up with that. So, and I was going, because you need someone, according to Sal, you need someone to support it in the legislature. So I'd gone through Pat Serpa. I haven't reached out to her since. I've had some, as you all know, we've had some family issues. I've kind of just, have basically tried to do the minimum. So
it's
work
not
on
just
that.
Pat Serpa. We also have Morgan, Burke.
Right, but she was the
Gallo.
one, but she was the one, Alan, that I originally went to, so I want to go back
Okay.
to her first. And that's something I'll work on.
But
So, and it won't be next April.
one
so.
of the one of the other issues that was brought up when I first proposed that is, hey, where's the money going to come from? Okay. Hey, Payne Street Land or Child Inc. That is an $8 million corporation. Where do we stand with negotiations? I know they wanted to give you guys a grand total of $50,000 for that. And that's when I got up here and said, are you freaking kidding me? Because the evaluation, and this is the assessment, evaluation, $1,177,700. Correction, that was back in 2014. It's increased since then. Right now, it's still up there. The amount of the tax is $34,471.11. However, comma, I believe the town of West Warwick collects zip. So that's a pretty big chunk of money. You know, we get $1 for the lease. I wish I had a bridge in Brooklyn to sell you guys. I'd sell a couple of them because this is ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. We also said, I remember Mrs. Williamson saying, well, that money has to come from somewhere, when Mr. Licciardi brought up an issue of about $500,000. Okay, but you did find 184,000. I'm not whacking you, Mr. Knott, because it's on them, $184,000 to contribute to his pension plan in one lump sum. So the elderly don't count, the taxpayers don't count, and I'm not going to get into the BS term, but that's what this is for this town. Okay. Some of you, after the last meeting, you may have seen the article on the front page of the Journal, West Warwick on the front page once again. And there were a couple of statements. I go back to Charlie Fogarty a long time ago, and he made a statement. It doesn't have to be illegal to be corrupt. I remember that, it had to be 20 years ago. He made that statement when he was a lieutenant governor. We also had Ken Block, who was, he's sort of a curmudgeon like me. He's always calling things out in the state. And in response to that article on the Hummel Report website, he published a pretty good quote. He covered what was in the article and he said, but nearly $200,000 to run a tiny Rhode Island town, plus almost $100,000 in pension from the same town. That, my friends, is corruption. That's not my statement. That's Ken Block. So if you have any arguments to make with that statement, take it up with him. But that's the impression of West Warwick to the state. I've compared this town a couple of times to Central Falls. I raised the issue before you guys were here today with Mr. Goslin driving over New London Avenue tonight. I saw 2 tires just dumped on the side of the road. It's on the work side, but it's right across from, or should I say, same side as Valley Country Club. So now, not only have we become a dump outside, on the main streets of this town, people are dumping tires, okay? And they look like ones that I would have put on my Mustang back in 1970. They were pretty big tires, but they're just dumped on the side of the road because as I pointed out before, West Warwick, you know, what's our reputation? I'm not gonna go there. I've mentioned it before when I talked about what had happened in the West Warwick High School locker room with the kids drinking because they had the temerity to do that, even though the tragic accident that had gone by, not even a year. So, we'll see what else we can come back with. Past 2 or 3 meetings, Mr. Wiley was here complaining about his fence down in Natick, and I wish Mr. Villa's here. He probably walked by that fence. And the question is, I guess the person actually filed a variance. And the question is, what happens now? It was done the week before the deadline. What happens now? It's not on any zoning board or planning board agenda, or at least it wasn't on the last one. And I know Attorney DiFiore complains about what happens in this town when things happen. You have somebody who blatantly disregarded 2 town ordinances, one with regard to the fence, one with regard to his garage. What happens now? Who makes the ultimate decision, as Mr. Wiley had pointed out, for good cause? Because I believe that ordinance said the planning board attorney, I don't know, the planning board, the building inspector, who decides that? Where is that written down? Besides that, who is the ultimate authority as to what is good cause? I could walk in and say, I'm suffering from PTSD. You all better hide. No, that doesn't work.
Didn't we leave that, just to clear it up, with Al, building official, and the plan, and the,
Yes.
and the planner?
Yes.
Were the 3 people that would make the decision.
That's correct.
And I personally
So-
wish I would have picked up on that because I don't agree with that.
So, but if that's the case, I don't know. I don't know.
I'm saying the next meeting for either of those boards is
It
in
doesn't-
August, which will be 1 year to the date since that issue was brought up to the town hall. A year. Oh my God. People can go out and do anything they want in this town and there's no repercussions. So I just want to leave that with you to think about it. You're puzzled, Mr. Goslin, but I mean, it's something that,
Because I've done a lot of research on that one property. It's amazing. And first and foremost, I reached out to 2 different fence companies.
Mhm.
I asked, if you install a fence for somebody in his code of ordinances, whose responsibility is it? And he says, usually the fence company should follow the code of ordinances. So if that person, and I don't know if they did, hired a fence company to put that in, they should have known the code of ordinances in the town of West Warwick. Second, the individual lot that we're talking about, that we're on, there is no house, and the individual who has come here against the property owner doesn't live next door, doesn't associate with any property on that street but an empty lot, so he's complaining about an 8-foot fence that he goes and sits in his lot and just stares at. So I'm a little confused on to.
Mr. Goslin, let's put up a 10-foot fence next to your property. I'll pay your neighbor rent to put that sign up and you tell me what you think. What about the garage, Mr. Goslin?
The garage, that's not the whole story. That's on the building official's office. They can deal with that. I'm not arguing that.
If I
I
understand, it was dealt with.
It was dealt with.
Right. Fines were issued and
Yes.
that was dealt with.
That's correct.
The fence,
Hold on.
The fence, you asked, me, and so I'm gonna answer.
Okay.
Mr. Wiley and I had a conversation. Mary Beth and I and but who else I had on the email? Al had a nice email exchange with them, and he's not here tonight, so I'm assuming that he's satisfied at this point with the way everything is, because
But there's.
Mr. DiFiore admitted that he was in error with his decision back then. And he stood right where you're standing now and said it 2 different times, actually once there, once.
That
over-
he, and
once from
I
the-
said he took a bullet for the team.
Oh, he didn't take it for the team.
I stated the truth. I didn't take any bullets. I stood up, I told him I made the decision, and I didn't take any bullets for anybody. And I don't like your accusation. I stood up to be reputable because they asked who did it, and I said I did it.
Exactly.
I was
You
not
assume-
taking
any bullets from
You assume
anybody.
responsibility.
However, there is a property on Sycamore Drive. I had gone to the building official and I mentioned it because if I had lived on either property on either side, I would have complained. He knew exactly the address. I didn't know the address. He gave it to me right away and he said, oh, there's hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of fines on that. There's nothing we can do. So this goes back to the properties where the rental people are complaining about something needs to get done. And that goes back a while because that was also bringing disrepute to West Warwick in the paper. And I'm surprised no one here has reached out to, again, our delegation up at the State House to come up with something to resolve the problem. Now, Vinnie Marzullo, who's a very close friend of mine, he was interim director of the Da Vinci Center in North Providence. And they have a problem there because I think it's Charles Gate has a lot of residents that are vulnerable. However, there's an encampment near there. And the people are actually going into the building and people are afraid to live there. These are people who had been formerly homeless. They're there. They're terrified. He reached out to Mayor Smiley. Apparently nothing happened. So apparently he is arranging a meeting with Senator Whitehouse to involve the HUD Inspector General because he said HUD has failed. Maybe it's time you reach out to Vinnie, the HUD, the Senator Whitehouse to get something done about the people in West Warwick. Okay, it needs to be done. If there's no housing, it's fine, but reach out to them.
Alan, what you just said, okay, Rep. Norray and I have had numerous conversations. He's working with the state on some state-owned property here in West Warwick that he would like to bring in affordable housing. I have at least one conversation weekly with them, but mostly 2 to 3 times a week we have a conversation just to talk about different things that I'd like to see. And Senator Burke will also calls me and says, what does West Warwick need? Now, I work very close with both of them. And, you know, I know Jay works close with Pat Serpa. You know, it's just, and I don't know if you're working with Morgan or anybody, but I know, and I know Mary Beth has
That story about the housing, the woman that's in Florida now, that story, I believe it was over a year ago, and she had to move out because of the ramifications of her going public.
I understand that. Okay, I have the same problem on East Main Street. I got an 8 family that's a disaster. And you know what? The residents, some residents come out of that house and clean it themselves. And unfortunately, they're sitting there cleaning it while other people are making a mess. And the landlord is not doing much. But again, when it hits social media, hits whatever, that resident comes out and says, I'm working on it. They get their group together and they put their gloves on and they go out there and.
Mr. Goslin, the Empire State Building was built in less than 430 days. You know, I mean, this has been going on for a while. I remember
Look at the Superman building that's vacant. Do something with it. I don't know, Alan, the answer, but that's, you know, when it comes to homeless.
That was the Industrial National Bank building, for clarification.
Well, it's recognized as Superman building in Rhode Island.
No, only by outsiders who came up with that name. Last thing with regard to money, okay? Do you remember Joe Friday, the detective on Dragnet? He had a very famous line. Just the facts, ma'am, just the facts. So Mrs. Williamson got upset last time I brought these facts out, and I'm going to bring them out again. I'm not making any insinuations. I'm just putting out the facts with regard to taxes in this town. I heard Mr. Apollonia was very upset yesterday concerning his neighbor's house was being assessed less than his. So I just want to put out numbers for you. The first number I'm going to read you is the tax in 2020, the tax in 2021. The second one is the tax in 2022. And the third number is going to be the delta. Okay? And I will start off with Mr. Bourget, 4174, 4362, and his taxes went up a grand total of $188. Close, but not to the penny, but they're close enough. Mr. Lichardi, 5572, 5410, minus $162. His taxes went down. Mr. Goslin, 7148, 7317. Your taxes went up $169. Mr. Messier.
Healed mine though.
No, but this is why other taxpayers get upset. Mr. Messier, 6964. You went down to 5775 for a decrease of $1,189.
That's a three-family, am I correct?
Yeah, but I did the similar, it went down. I got it here somewhere. if you
Now, look
really
at
wanna
5
know.
years ago, how it went up though. Three families got hit very hard in this community.
Right now, a similar to Mr. Messier's went down 400. So his went down 3 times that number. I'm going to skip Mrs. Williamson. Now I'm going to keep her in suspense. Because the next one I want to go to is the chairman of the planning board. His tax was $88.64. It dropped down to $7,300 for a decrease of $1,564. Okay, somebody said maybe he lives in a bad neighborhood. Do you live in a bad neighborhood, Mrs. Williamson? Because he's pretty close to you. Yours, 7194. It dropped down to 5864 for a decrease of $1,330. Now Palazzo's always up here, you know, raising issues. My tax was $59.43. It went up to $64.24 for an increase of $481. And I've got 2 other names on here. I'm not going to just bring them out now, but the question is, how do these numbers come out? I believe my house, it's smaller than Mrs. Williamson. I have 1/3 of the acreage. It's not a great, it's an okay neighborhood, but how do these things happen? How do you explain this to the people of West Warwick, why their taxes are going up or down? Maybe somebody else wants to comment. I'm just putting it out there so people can look at it. The information's out there on the town. I mean, my credit to the town, the new website, you can go anywhere and get anything. It's fantastic. I enjoy it. I never agreed very often with Mr. Giroux, but the best thing he ever did was install these cameras so the entire town can see what's going on, such as that gentleman back there. We'll see how it goes.
I don't have an answer, but like I said, I gave up years ago trying to appeal mine because my neighbor's house right behind me, it's identical to mine. And 1 year, miraculously, right around the time I started running for office, my taxes went up a couple $100 and hers went down a couple $100. It's identical properties. So I don't know.
Well, I heard that's what Mr. Apollonia was complaining about yesterday. You know, it's a matter, and hey, Mr. Goslin, I'm planning on packing boxes and leaving because it's enough is enough. I actually also wrote to Governor Abbott. He's not going to like this, but I encourage Governor Abbott to send more people to Rhode Island so the State House can deal with it, because they're obviously not dealing with the problems that affect the taxpayers in his state. Have a good night.
Very briefly, something Alan brought up. I did have the opportunity to speak with those people. They wanted to know why we couldn't do anything. I explained to them that we go as far as we can. they agreed with me that it's on a state level, that we need authorization. We need legislation to empower us to go further than we have. I left it that they are going to sit down with their group. They are going to put together suggestions as to what they would like to see, to give us the power to do what they would like done to solve those problems. When they get it to me, I'll bring it to you and see where we can go from there.
Are you talking the group with the
Reclaim-
the
Homeless.
the homeless or the
Reclaim
landlord?
RI, I believe.
This is the
Landlord,
people,
yeah.
the
Sorry.
people with, that we get,
They're all
that we
the
get
same.
judged.
It all
Sorry,
belongs the same.
I'm losing it.
People we get judgments.
Reclaim RI, they're the tenant advocacy
Yes,
group,
Yes.
Thank you.
tenant advocacy group easier.
Okay.
Paul Villa, 15 Janet Drive, and I know it's been a long night, so I'm not going to belabor the point too long, but to make you all feel better, I just dropped off my tax check today and it's $7,415, and I'm on a 6,800 square foot lot, so I don't know how that all works either. It's paid in full. Yeah. Oh, yeah, well, yeah, my neighbors have got pools and they're not paying that kind of money, but I don't get it. But anyway, couple of things. Leagues of cities and towns were supposed to negotiate a great deal for us, as I was told when we talked about that letter. And yeah, I guess they didn't do such a good job because we had this legislation passed, which is pretty much going to get rid of the zoning boards in most cities, in all cities and towns. And I'm not really sure what the planning board's function is going to be just yet because Al's still trying to decipher all that stuff. But the thing I want to bring up is we're talking about taxes here. And I watched last meeting through the cameras, and it was brought up that there are a lot of tax abatement, I don't want to say abatement, that there's tax incentives given to these developers. I believe there was some given on these condos that are in Arctic. There was the gentleman with the mill down here on East Main Street that was looking for.
Came forward with that.
Right, but I'm saying he was looking for a 10-year, you guys went to a 5-year. Well, with all this future development that's coming into this town, that's going to probably happen because of our friends at the state, and I will point the finger at the state, okay? Because I was told last night that an entire delegation voted for this, okay? And I don't know how they can do that when they don't even, I don't know how they don't even understand what this is going to do to the cities and towns, okay? But at any rate, being where our tax bills all are in this town, and I said this a couple of months ago at a meeting, I asked you what the future plan for the town was, because we're faced with fire department that has already answered last year more calls than ever in its history. Police departments are in the same boat. Schools are at capacity. And we have tax incentives being given to developers, which I know why they're given, but why didn't we step forward when West Valley Inn went to the auction block? And we had a buyer from Block Island who wanted to buy that facility and run it as a banquet hall. And why didn't we, and I know a lot of you may have not have been here as council people, but when there was the person from Block Island wanted some money off the sale price because of the roofs that were faulty, they couldn't come to an agreement. So now we got 66 condos going in there. So those are the kind of tax incentives that we should be looking at, because he was going to run a business. He wasn't going to put people in our schools. He wasn't going to add.
But the sales agreement's a private agreement. That has nothing.
I get
Town
that,
can't get involved with sales agreements.
but a town manager or a town planner can try and be an intermediary and get between the both of them and say, look, can we come up with some kind of solution here? All right, but what I'm saying is to give tax incentives to residential properties, so we could have people going into these condominiums, wherever they may be, and putting kids into our school system. And if they put 2 kids into the school system, I don't even know what it costs today, probably 14, 15 grand a kid. Okay. And we're not, that could be, we're not getting any tax money or very little tax money over the course of the 10 years. Where the people who are owning single family homes in this town keep getting tax increase after tax increase. Another thing we missed the boat on, and I'm being told by someone I know who lives in Warwick, when they were due for a reevaluation about the same time we were, and the city of Warwick told the state, time out, we're not doing it. Because the housing prices are astronomical, they're out of whack, we're not going to do this at this point, and we're going to delay it. All right, and why aren't we looking at things like that? Because my evaluation went from 291,000 to 404,000, and I'm on a 6,800 square foot lot. Okay, so the burden is coming down, and I just want to know, again, I'm asking, what's the long-term plan here? Because we are getting residents added to this town. We are getting the immigrant population is coming in here. They are going into the schools. So the state is famous for bringing all this stuff and then telling us, you figure out how to pay for it. Like somebody was just saying, as part of this legislation, that they're getting rid of $50,000 in tangible taxes. Are they paying us for it?
Yes.
Okay, because for now.
No, that's.
So, and so the point is, when they stop paying us for it, who's going to pay that bill?
Yep.
Okay,
That's right.
we're getting to a point here that the single family taxpayer can't afford this anymore. And what Alan was saying a little while ago about people packing boxes and moving, that's exactly what's happening. They're throwing in the towel. And the people that are throwing in the towel are the people who are paying the bills. You know, and I commend you for taking on the issues tonight with the encampments and all that stuff, and you know, standing up for your constituents, because you know, people should be treated with dignity, all people, and they should be given chances for treatment and all that stuff. But with the dignity and the treatment comes responsibility. So if Mr. Ferrucci, who was mentioned, was allowing you to use their bathroom, well, you owe him a little responsibility to go in there and do it the right and proper way, not leaving a mess. So, and just like people along the bike path, they have a right, they pay their big tax bill, and they have a right to go out in their backyard and not have to deal with that. Okay, so I commend you for taking that on, and they are offering a lot of good services, and I get the services, but when somebody doesn't want the service, they can't be allowed to stay fighting at the gazebos, and they can't be allowed to stay drinking at the gazebos, because the taxpayers who pay for that also have a right to use those facilities and be free from that stuff. So I commend you for that. And at that point, I'm going to let it go because it's been a long meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief.
Eric Reed, 6200 Ave. First of all, I'm hangry. I didn't get my dinner. Now I'm on a fasting program until tomorrow morning. I'm struggling. But I sat here tonight and I listened to this whole circus for the planning board. I don't even know what to say. But I do commend Mr. Messier for coming out of the gate like a Clydesdale, because we know what that's about. We know that's because my dad nailed you to the wall with your ethics violations, which there'll be more to come. That's number one. So we know why you came out of the gate like that. Perfect time. You're good. Perfect. The second thing is, you know, you all can sit here and you can all agree my experience level is high. Okay, I've shown it on all different levels in this town. I've gotten phone calls from all different people that work in this town. Manager, Miss Williamson, Dave in the past, Lachati, forget. What can we do with this? How can we fix this? All that. And I've always had the answers, and if I haven't, I bring the resources in. So nobody up here can say, I'm not qualified for that position. What I will say is you don't want me in that position because you can't control me. The guy you want to put in a position, you've been controlling for 15 years. You can say what you want. We know how this works. You showed it tonight.
I didn't even talk to the man there.
You said you knew about the ethics violations. You admitted tonight in the discussion,
The council had a full discussion about it.
that
yes.
you knew about what he was saying about the ethics. Okay. I don't know if that's a violation on your behalf, but we'll find that out. Okay, we're gonna find that out. But
Play the violation game all week long. I don't get what you're saying.
at the end of the day, I'm only trying to do what's right for the town. You've been on social media. You said to people, Derek's trying to destroy the town. He don't love the town. Most of what I'm doing his passion for this town.
Derek. And you can go back to your social media. I never said that about
Okay.
you.
Eric is passionate about this town. Whether you admit it, don't admit it, I am. However, I'm nobody's sucker. Okay? I am not gonna get played up with these discussions. And then somebody puts my name up and nobody wants a second. I understand how that works. I'm gonna keep my application in for the next round. But we're gonna see where we go from there. And I'm gonna leave it at that. But I'm nobody's sucker.
Any other public comment?
I do have a question for the manager. I haven't brought it up in a long time, Greenbush parking. I mean, this is the time of the year, if anything was gonna get done, it would get done. I don't know if we ever had any answers with Ken leaving as far as the fire department allowing access through the back or anything along that line. I don't know if you can get answers for the next meeting, because it's not on the agenda for tonight, but if you can get answers for the next meeting, I'd appreciate it. I saw you, Tim.
We all received the ribbon cutting ceremony for
Is that what that is?
July 24th at 8 a.m. for the new Thunder Mist dental facility. And second, just to reiterate, Wednesday nights is the concert series. And next week, I think there's a real big event going on at the gazebo with the concert series. I think I'm slated to take pies in the face, so if anybody, I'm not getting in the dunk tank. That's River Point, I'm sorry, River Point. But
somebody's looking forward to this.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll get that from the back.
How much do we gotta pay for that?
I don't know. I'm just told to be there. That's it. I rephrase it, I might be somebody's sucker. I don't know. But I said I wasn't getting in the dunk tank, but if council wants to be involved, reach out to Lori Swanson.
Cool.
Any questions?
I just had a question. I don't know if you can check the email, but I acknowledge that the Learn 365 compact approval, if that's something you're willing to do a special meeting for quickly, or I'd rather not wait until August 15th.
Well, I was gonna say, if we need a special meeting for the lights in that, why don't?
I'll talk to the light person tomorrow, because if I can get that squared away and we can
When are you
act on
looking
it
at
now.
next Tuesday or the following?
I mean, it could be during the day for 10 minutes, as long as we advertise it and have the opportunity to discuss it.
Next
whoever-
Monday or Tuesday, early on Tuesday, I'm available, but beyond that, the rest of this week and next week and gonna be shot.
I won't be in, I won't be here for 3 days next week, so the 18th through the 20th, so. But if we do it any Monday, you said
Next
Monday,
Monday?
like during the day, you said we could do it? or
Can I ask a silly question?
No.
Okay. Does the council need to act on it? Can't you just sign it?
I did sign it,
So,
but it was pending your approval.
I think that's why we left it at the last meeting.
Made a recommendation, but you guys never actually voted on it.
Correct.
So for.
Because we wanted, the advertisement needed,
So,
Because we said the last
proposal
meeting
needed to go in.
so for informational purposes only, he's requesting a meeting in order to
Yeah.
authorize.
Potentially,
right.
And you need
Questions were on the
and you
school
need 3 of
department.
us
Yes.
to the.
so next Monday, I'm available. If that works for anybody else. Anytime during the day, next Monday, I'm available. 6 a.m.
I'll do
to
the
10
email
p.m.
poll.
Yeah,
That way we can advertise it properly and
Don't you include me in the text poll too?
text poll
I like the text poll better.
There's no pull.
Next
All right,
Monday's.
anybody else?
17th.
availability.
Yeah, it's not an emergency, so you have to still have to post, right?
Oh, Thursday for Monday. Yeah, that's
And
right.
that's both items.
Lights and education.
I thought the lights were gonna have a full discussion of it.
In August, yeah, didn't you say that for the lights?
Oh,
I thought that was,
whatever.
If it was discussed, I don't know.
Well, I thought you had suggested doing an earlier one because they want to get it done by the end of August.
all right, motion to adjourn.
Second. All in favor?
Night.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.